Me, and Tito. Sunday live, talking about your whammy bars and your overdrive. What's up? Look at this thing. Have you guys ever seen this? I've had this around for a little while. A little Supro situation. And it's fun to play slide on, even though I don't really consider myself a slide player. I've got it in a little quasi-open G right now for slide for something. Anyway, yeah. What's going on, folks? How you doing? What are you guys talking about? What are you guys doing? I just made coffee. I feel fairly caffeinated already. Oh, that's good. That's good. John says he wants a Thornbucker A2. They're coming. Did you guys see the nice picture that they put out on the Sir Instagram of it? And then I copied it on mine. God, it's a sexy humbucker picture. It's just the pickup with the edge of the guitar. That's all you can see. Nice work, the folks out there at Sir Colby and Justin taking nice looking photos. Yeah, this is my signature guitar week on the Sir IG, so they're posting all about it all week, which was very nice. I guess that started on Monday, so I guess it'll end tomorrow. How sad. But all good things must come to an end. There's a super chat there from Robert. Could you please suggest a greenback British 10-inch speaker? Ooh. I was going to say that the 10-inch Celestion greenback, because it sounds great, but you want a 50-watt power handling and a 10. That's a good question. Let me look really quick. Isn't there like a 10-inch? The Alnico Gold will handle 50, but it's a gold. It's a great sounding speaker. The Alnico Gold. You might love it. Celestion guitar speaker. I just can't remember if there's like a 10-inch version of maybe the creamback or not. There might be, but let's do a little bit of research and find out here, because I love the 10-inch greenback. It's a really, really cool sounding speaker in its own right, that I really enjoy. So if you could get away with that, that would be great. But if you can't, that's a whole nother thing. G10 Gold. Yeah, they make a G10 creamback. So I would go that way. It says 45 watts. So you're on the hairy edge there. But that's probably the one to get. Looks like they also make a G10 in a V-type. That might be good. I like their V-type speaker too. So it's say 50 watts. You got a few options there. For sure. They make a G10 vintage. Is that like a V30 and a 10? That could be cool too, I guess. I don't know. I would probably go creamback if you want in particular the greenback flavor. I guess they rate their greenback 10 at 30 watts, it says. But I'm going to say that you should probably either, for what you want, a greenback tone, you should probably go G10 creamback or VT Junior, which is going to be kind of like probably if it's anything like its big brother in a 12, it'll be a halfway between a V30 and a greenback sort of sound. Yeah, hope that's helpful. Are you a fan of the Tea Party? I don't know anything about that band. I missed the boat on a lot of Canadian music post 1990, 91. I'm familiar with some bands like, Sloan I love, but that's only because I was on the road with them for a while. And so I got to know their music. But being in the US, all those Canadian bands that broke in the 90s, I mean, Tragically Hip, I don't really know their music. And they're really big in Canada. So unfortunately, there's just not many of them I know of. Our Lady Peace I was into. I feel like they broke a little more in the US or something. I don't know why I'm more aware of them, but there's a lot of those Canadian bands that I don't know that much about from the 90s and early 2000s and stuff. Because I was in LA, listening to Badlands and whatever was happening at the time. I don't know why I picked them. I guess because I remember when I first moved to LA, I lived at the Oakwood for a while, right after I moved out of the Oakwood, Nirvana moved in to record Nevermind. So I would have been there at the same time as Nirvana. So that tells you how long ago that was. Like I was there pre-Nirvana, coming down from Seattle to record Nevermind, living at the Oakwood for a few months or whatever while they were doing it. Yeah. But when I was at the Oakwood, the folks I remember being, because Oakwood, you guys don't know what the hell the Oakwood is if I don't tell you. It's in Avalon now, like a corporate kind of housing sort of place. It's not far from where I am right now. And it's kind of like right on the edge of Burbank, but really close to Hollywood. And you could rent it's a massive complex where it's on the side of a hill, and it's kind of built into the side of this hill, and it's like 26 different buildings that are like apartment buildings basically. And you could go there and rent a furnished place, short-term rental, like for a month, 6 months, whatever, you know. I rented an unfurnished apartment there, and I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, 3 guys as MI students when I first moved there. But you could rent a furnished apartment. So there was a lot of corporate business there with the movie studios and television studios and record companies and stuff. And they would put bands up there, or actors, or whoever was in town that didn't live in LA while you were making a record or while you were working on a television show, et cetera, et cetera. So there ended up being a lot of bands there when I first moved in there. So that's why, like, I've talked about my stories about Vito from White Lion was living there while he was making a record. Who else was there? Aldo Nova was there, for all you Canadians. And I remember I was 19, you know, I moved in this place, and I used to go out to the pool, and I'd sit out there, and there was Aldo Nova. So we'd get in conversations, and I remember funny talks, you know, with him. And I remember, remember that song, Living in the Wild, Wild West, down, the Wild, Wild West. Remember that song? Those guys were there. I can't even remember what the hell that band was called. She's so done, and I don't care. Loving out in the wild, wild hair. So anyway, they were there. Couldn't tell you what the hell the band was called, but they were trying to follow that up with a hit, because that was like a big hit. I don't think that happened. And Badlands was there. So I remember Ray Gillen. Like, I think Jake probably lived in LA or something, so he probably had his own place, but I don't think Ray did. So Ray was definitely there, staying there. And he would hang out. This is always by the pool where you'd see these people, you know. And so, like, for a kid from Canada just dropping into LA, it was like, oh wow, look at all these. I've moved into this building where all these rock stars live. Anyway, funny times. The Oakwood. What else have we got here? The Escape Club. That was the band, The Escape Club. That's right. Greg and Mark and Mesa Guitar Guy. You've all got it there. Will you have Andre Neary on your channel? Andre's really cool. I would love to have him on my channel at some point. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, sure. If he's interested. Yeah. I'm from Europe. What is Tea Party? Tea Party was a Canadian band that came out in the 90s, really, and rose to popularity. I think they were a trio. Is that right? And the singer was kind of a little Jim Morrison-esque, right? Am I getting that right? I think so. Yeah. Big Sugar. There's another band that missed the boat on. Totally missed the boat on. Are you into any Canadian punk hardcore bands? Like, well, I remember like SNFU. I think SNFU was from Edmonton originally, or at least there's some connection to Edmonton. They used to be there a lot. So I remember them. That's about as punk hardcore as it gets, right? But I wasn't really like into punk. Although one of my best early memories is hearing the Sex Pistols when I was like 10 years old and going like, oh my God, what is this music? You know, and being like really into that. But the Canadian bands, I never really, you know, I didn't really get into. I was more into like, you know, what you would expect from what you see me do. So, but I appreciate punk rock a lot, you know, and like, it just wasn't, I didn't live and breathe that culture. That's for sure. You know, I was more like a rock kid. What else we got here? Jimmy Ray says that he had a Bogner 210 with Alnico Gold's awesome cab. I really like 10s. I mean, I'd love to have a little 210 cabinet. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, it would be cool to have a 210 cab that's very compact here for when I'm working on my like modeling rig that I've got going here that I'm using these days for some things with the quad and power amp and a cabinet plus, IRs going direct to PA or whatever. It would be cool to have a small cab to kind of dial that in with, wired in stereo, 2 jacks on it. And so sort of thinking about that, like, could I order a little cab from Mojo or something that I could put a couple tens in? It doesn't even have to sound amazing, just like good, just for my own when I'm working on stuff. Stephen Falkenberg says, yes, SNFU is from Edmonton. That's where I'm from. My hometown. What else here? I have all the mini amps and thinking an EVH mini rig, BE mini. That'd probably be fun. Done a lot Echoplex and preamp. Any other things you might recommend? I mean, if you want to do the later tones, you could get it might be fun. I mean, just to be silly, you could be stereo. You could take this, because I think they have an effect loop, right? So you could take the effect send and go into like a eventide pitch factor, and then take the stereo out to the pitch factor and go back into both returns of 2 of them, and then you'd have a 2 mini with 2 cabs stereo rig, and when you turn on the pitch factor, you get the full 80s 90s Eddie Van Halen thing. That'd be fun. In a little mini rig. And then you could even add stereo to delay to that if you want to do the full, use a DD200 or something and do the full SDE 3000 split, kind of 250 500 millisecond thing for a little bit of ambience. Maybe. But otherwise, you got it kind of covered, I think. What do you think is happening to Randall? Oh, sorry. I highlight the wrong thing. Well, let's do this first. Tea Party Trio from Trio, right? Very Zepp Cashmere sounding. Plays like Page, sings like Morrison. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, I just kind of missed the boat on him. Randall. So Randall amps. I don't know what's happening with Randall. I haven't heard anything about Randall in a long time, or Washburn or any of those brands. I don't know what's going on with them, to be honest, or who owns them, or I would say that your assessment is probably accurate. I mean, I just don't know what's happening with them. That might be still being made and stuff. I just don't see them out there as not like they were 15 years ago. There was a fair amount of Randall, Washburn, out there in the world. But yeah, it's a good question. I'd have to ask somebody in the know that knows what's happening with the company. Steven says, I played a Rev G amp through 112 this weekend in a store in DC. Actually surprised how good it was. Cool. Hey, those guys are, they're working hard. They're trying hard. They're like, they're always at the trade shows. They're trying to make their, I don't know how to describe it. They're like a company that seems to be motivated, and wants to make good products. And, I've played through very few of their amps, to be honest. I'm mostly experienced. Only times I played through the amps were at GitCon, which was now going back 4 or 5 years ago. So I don't know what they're doing now. That's, as far as the amps, how they've changed and stuff like that. But their pedals, they send me to demo and stuff, and they make nice overdrives and distortions. Yep. Leroy loves his Club 40, he says, with a matching 212 cab with greens. Germino makes great amps. He's got a lot of respect of amp builders. John Sir has great respect for Germino and the clean work that he does. And, and I've heard nothing but good things. I have one here, but, and it's the only one that I've ever played. The red one sorry, it's so dark in here today, but my red Germino is right there. Great sounding amp before I 2 hours later had it modded. I bought it to mod, that's what I bought it for. It was secondhand. It was a good deal. And I needed a Plexi style amp to mod, and I got it, and we did it. And it was like, I kind of felt bad because when I first got it, I plugged it in. And I was like, this thing sounds great. It sounds like Malcolm Young. Like, it's just like really good. And I thought, God, do I even want it? And I thought, no, you have to stick to your plan. Like, you can't just have another, I already have a 72 Marshall, and then I have the SL68, and I have a few of the Plexi style amps around here. So you stick to your plan and turn it into a Jose. So that's what I did. Or a Fuzz, as the Friedman Jose. Fuzz. I think that's going to stick. Somebody said that on Tone Talk the other day, and I thought it was hilarious. Have you tried the Blue Guitar Amp 1? No, not myself, but I've played a gig with Thomas, and he was playing through it, the designer, and I thought it sounded quite good. And then Thomas actually showed me the new version that he's been working on. It's not quite done yet, but he gave me the kind of the once over, and I thought it was really quite cool. So he's another guy that works very hard at his craft, kind of like Rev, where he's like really trying to innovate and do different things. And I really appreciate that. So, have you ever mixed two different speakers in a cab? Sure. I have a number of cabs like that. I have, for example, an open back that has a Blue and an H30 style speaker in it. And you can use one or both. And I use that a lot for, recording open back. That's kind of my go-to, if I want to do a low volume Voxy thing, you can just plug into the Blue, and it's basically kind of like an AC30 cabinet. Then, I had a cabinet that disappeared that ended up, I never got it back. It's a Chris Cornell thing where our gear all went to London and ended up in some warehouse. And then some of it came back to the US and some didn't. And there was two cabinets that I had, a Bogner it was a Bogner oversized that had a gold and a V30, and I never got that cab back somehow. And I had another cabinet with two golds in it, actually, a divided by 13. That was a closed back with two golds. That was sort of owned by them, though. But the one thing I never got back was the Bogner oversized. It just disappeared. It ended up in some warehouse in England, and I never saw it again. I don't care, actually. I didn't make a big deal about it. Just an oversight. And then time went by and the organization kind of changed, and he went to Soundgarden, and it was like, it was sort of me being like, I suppose if I would have pushed, I could have gotten it back. Maybe I wonder where it is now. Like, who has that Bogner cabinet? Where did it end up? It's kind of funny. It was a good sounding cabinet, though, long story short. I digress in my stories, as I often do, and get off on tangents. But not only that, I should mention my signature 412, of course, that would be the most relevant, has greenbacks and V30s. And my signature 212 for the PT15 has a greenback and a V30. So we do that now in those cabinets and blend them. Is the plan to continue to make the original PT Sig 2 humbucker standard? Yes, you can still order that guitar, and I will still use that guitar. Want to add blower switch to do Les Paul type switching? Sure, you could do all that if you want to. And add a switch, have somebody add a mini toggle or something to do that. Have you ever played with Aaron Lewis? No. Do you ever stack fuzz pedals? No. Generally, fuzzes I think of as a one kind of sound thing. I've never done like a fuzz in an overdrive, but I often play fuzzes into distorted amps. To me, a fuzz face doesn't sound right unless it's going into a dirty Marshall that's already kind of cranking to already at least a little bit crunchy, if not downright distorted. That's where the fuzz face magic is. Hitting gain, kind of like a tube screamer. Tube screamer into a clean amp is not something I'm interested in. Fuzz face into a clean amp is not really something I'm interested in. Fuzz face, of course, will do the magic thing, though, where if you hit a dirty Marshall with it, but then you roll down then you get all this crazy clean. That's amazing, with the fuzz becoming a part of the pickup and electronic circuit of the guitar when you roll down, and it sounds so cool. I should mention, I put up this post on Instagram, and it's got like 50,000 views or whatever now. It's a reel talking about, it was one of the questions that I answered for Sir for my signature guitar week this week. And I was talking about why my guitars have 22 frets. So some of you may have seen this. I think I put it up on YouTube as well as what do they call it? YouTube stories now. They're trying to compete with Reels and TikTok and all that. And I said the reason that I do it is because that harmonic node is underneath the 22nd fret. Sorry, the 24th fret, where the 24th fret would be right there, right? You can hear it. Can you hear that? You can hear that even with no amp. That's where the harmonic is. Right? And people were like, yeah, but like I got this. And so I said, that's what I love about the way that a Strat neck pickup sounds. And I believe it's something to do with that node being right there. That's why the Strat neck pickup sounds so good. And if you have 24 frets, it pushes the neck pickup forward. It's not there anymore and the sound changes. People are like, that doesn't make any sense. That only happens with open strings, like playing harmonics. And I'm like, no. It's not about playing the harmonic. Like, I'm not talking about playing harmonics right on top of the pickup. It's like I felt like really misunderstood, but maybe it's my fault and I didn't explain myself right. I just think that there's a phenomenon that happens there with that node being right there, that when you play everything else, whatever is happening there, whatever that one part of the string that the pickup is sensing, that's what gives you that magic blowing over the top of a Coke bottle. You know what I'm talking about? Kind of Strat pickup, neck pickup sound. You know, and to some degree, even a Les Paul or something, even though it's a humbucker, so it's both coil sensing. But you know what I'm talking about, that the airy thing that a Strat does, or a Tele pickup, really. I mean, to a lesser degree, to me. But a Strat neck pickup, part of the magic is it being right in that position. Why? I don't know. I don't actually care, but it just sounds the way it does. And if you move it forward, it doesn't do that anymore. Somebody described it as sounding more firm on a 24 fret guitar when you move it forward, and them saying, I like it that way because it actually has more of a, like for guys like Petrucci and stuff, you know, and I think about that and I think, yeah, that makes sense. Like actually with overdrive, you might get, maybe it's like more fundamental or something and less of that kind of scoopy, like, cause there's almost like a scoop to it or something. There's something going on with the sound that is that magic Hendrixy Strat thing, you know, that they do. But maybe with gain, I could see in a humbucker or something in 24 frets, maybe the pickup moved a little forward. It's going to have a little more treble anyway. But somebody described the sound as being more firm. And I thought that's a good, really good explanation. A little less bassy, maybe a little more fundamental, a little more like with high gain. And I could see that, you know, but I'm not really that guy. So it's kind of interesting, you know. Blues player here. How can I get more sustain without more gain so that my legato lines are heard? Different pedal, get gain from amp or a compressor. Well, there's different ways you can go about it. You know, like I was talking about an underrated pedal the other day, the Boss Blues Driver is a really nice pedal. The Jan Ray is also a nice pedal for this. And maybe the Timmy, you know. Yes, they will add gain, but there's kind of a warmth to them. All the pedals that I just mentioned, to a smoothness to the top end that when in a mix with a band, or especially when playing single note lines, you won't hear as hairy gain really. So that's one thing you could do is add. I would try maybe a Waza Blues Driver or a Klon is pretty cool in this way too, but also what's the pedal that I just mentioned that I just forgot about? What did I just say? A Klon, a Blues Driver, and then there was another one that I just said, and I can't think of it right now. I'm having a total mental block. Oh, the Jan Ray, sorry, and the Timmy. Jan Ray I like for this too. Anyway, try playing one of those and then rolling down the volume on the guitar a little bit, but having that pedal on, so then it cleans up a little bit. But there's a fatness to the mids that those pedals give that make legato a little more, like they preamp and kind of they're a compressor and a drive in their own right. So that's one, you know, trying one of those and then with the volume down a little bit on the guitar is a really cool way to kind of get a fatter sound and a little more apparent sustain and stuff without it sounding more driven. Really, you just have to be, you know, like careful with you know, judicous, whatever, what's that word, careful use of the gain or drive control, you know, and set them for about unity gain, not to boost too much, maybe a little bit of boost into the amp, warm up the top end with the tone control a little bit, and then just have the drive up enough where you're getting a fattening, a thickening, and legato becomes a little bit easier, but it doesn't sound really more driven to me. It's just kind of a tone thickener. So that could be cool. Another thing you might want to try is a compressor, but I don't really think of blues players as using compressors. But the one that try the Woodshed from Sir or the Carl Martin. Carl Martin makes really nice kind of always on compressors. They're the number one company that I can think of that, like Andy Timmons, for example, Carl Martin compressor, always on. He's got a setting that he uses as part of his tone. He doesn't turn it off, as far as I understand. That's what I remember about him, that it was an always on kind of box, and that will give you more sustain. Gilmour used compressors in that way to play bluesy and kind of sustaining bends, and he was a compressor guy. And didn't he just use like CS3s and stuff? What compressor did Gilmour use? I'm not sure 100%, but I think it was pretty run-of-the-mill kind of stuff. But he, great, obviously, in that context. Yeah. Okay, so I got a big old super chat there. Here's another one from Cavalry Kendrick. Hey, man, thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for the Sunday shows. I appreciate it. I do. Oh, and then there you are again. Good, sir. 2 times. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah. What else we got here? What's this pedal you're talking about here? A, B, C, D, E, F. Focus uses your sound and projects it through a mix, but only if your amp is crank. I use a D's Custom Range T. It has a D buffer circuit. That's interesting. What pedal are you talking about? I need to find your earlier post. Can you tell me without me going back here, which pedal you're talking about? I like the idea of a debuffer circuit. For those that don't know, like the buffer will mess with using certain fuzzes and vibes and stuff like that, and a pedal that's got a debuffer built in will raise the impedance before it hits the circuit in the pedal, and it'll change the tone considerably, warm it up, and make it more friendly with with a debuffer. You still don't get the volume roll down effect on the guitar that you can get when there's no buffer in line at all, but at least a debuffer will kind of make a fuzz face usable, or certain fuzzes or germanium style fuzzes and stuff like that. I'll make them usable as a one sound kind of thing. You don't get the volume control stuff, but it will make them not oscillate and go crazy and sound like flies in a buzzing whatever in a jar kind of tone or whatever. Yeah, okay, what else we got here? Do you think a beginner should get a good amp or try out pedals if they're not happy with their tone? I mean, a good guitar and a good amp is kind of number one, I always think. I actually think not enough focus is placed on a good amp these days. Even with great players, I see them kind of using, maybe it's the low volume thing or whatever, but I see a lot of players kind of, with a really anemic clean sound on one, and then they're just turning on pedals to augment that, and that's like you're sort of polishing a turd, I think, at that point. If you've got a really great sounding amp and guitar and then you add pedals, now you're really getting somewhere. I don't blame it completely on the players. I think it's kind of the way, playing in clubs and stuff. And, I've just seen some really great players kind of disappear in the mix because they don't have the same focus, or they don't have the volume and they don't have the tone coming out of an amplifier to really make their playing shine. They can play like crazy, but they're playing in a band on a stage now, and they're at the mercy of you hear my rants about sound guys and stuff like that in clubs, but not all guitar players are created equal. When you got a really amazing musician, but you're kind of neutering them by making them turn down really low on stage, I'll turn it up in the PA, you got to play quieter on stage, right? And it's like, now you've left your whole thing up to this person. And sometimes it's really kind of on the guitar player to be like, they got to get their tone together and get it together at a good volume on stage with the amp and the guitar, and make sure that's great, and then augment it with pedals, and then you'll have a really amazing sound, a la all the great guitar players that we all grew up listening to and love. Messing with that formula, I've just seen some shows where I've seen like amazing guitar players just lost in the mix. It's like, well, I can't even tell what they're doing, so I lose interest. when they don't have a killer sound on stage. And I really do think it's the amp thing, or if you're going to do it with a modeler, like, you better have it together, and make it great, So yeah, I think as a beginner, it's important, even if it's just a good little solid state, whatever. It's important to have a good amp. By good, that could be, I can think of good inexpensive amps. That. What's your favorite attenuator? I have the THD hot plate, but like one with a full range variable volume. Well, if you like a traditional attenuator, I think probably the best one out there is the Iron Man. In the traditional sort of attenuator, passive attenuator sense, where it's sucking juice off the amp and letting some through to the speaker. So the Iron Man is really good. The Rock Crusher, pretty good. The only problem I have with the Rock Crusher is that there's a big jump between bypass and the first attenuation. Is like, they label it as 4 dB, but it sounds like 8 to me. So it might be too much for some players. But it's a pretty good sounding, the Rock Crusher. My favorite device is the power station for this, the Fryette power station. It's a load and reamp, so not a technically, it attenuates, you get to the same place, does a similar thing. It's just more versatile than a passive attenuator. It's got a built-in reactive load that loads all the way down to line level, and then a power amp that amplifies back up to whatever level that you want. So you can have, any volume level, variable, and even have 2 switchable volumes actually on it. That's really nice. Another one that worked great was the Kelly attenuator. It was really good for a passive attenuator, I always thought. I have one of those around here somewhere. It's a really good box, actually. And the old Faustine, which I have sitting right there, but you can't get it anymore. It's right over here. That was a really good passive attenuator as well. Still sounds really good to me, especially for just shaving a few dB off, for live. Yeah. Still loving the awesome PT15IR. Thank you. I love mine too. Love it. 50s wiring on Les Paul or treble bleed. My Les Pauls generally are 50s wiring. I like treble bleeds in my Sirs. I've done a treble bleed on a Les Paul just on the neck pickup, and that was really cool because you could roll down the neck pickup all the way to like, barely on, and then get a basically clean sound. When I was running a 1-channel divided by 13 amp, well, they're all 2-channel, but I was only using the 1-channel. On my FTR 37, I used to use the Les Paul like that, where I'd hit it basically as a clean switch, go to the neck pickup with the treble bleed, and it sounded really cool. And then I could hit the bridge pickup and it'd be crunchy and dirty and hit an overdrive for solos. That worked really well. Yeah, a couple super chats here. I hope I'm not missing. I'm going to get the other $20 one just a sec here. Steven, hi. Enjoy some coffee. Thank you, my friend. Your advice for EVH PAF tone and an Alder HSS with an ebony fingerboard. Well, you're basically describing my signature guitar. I've got an Alder body with an ebony fingerboard on my signature guitar, torn between SD78 Motor City 2nd degree black belt. Those are pretty different. Between those 2 pickups, let me just hit Trevor here, and then thank you, sir, for your super chat. I appreciate that. Coffee time, and we do need some beans around here. Again, we always go through them, so appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'm coming back to the EVH pickup in 2 seconds here. Here's my first payment on the new red PT Sig. Only 900 more to go. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for so much, you guys. So many good questions today. I'm just scanning them here, and I want to answer them all, but I can't get distracted. I gotta answer this one. So my guitar, Alder body, right? Ebony fingerboard. I did ebony on this guitar because I wanted it. Look how cool it looks. That's the whole. I mean, it's just like a slick machine with the almost black ebony, right? And that's what I wanted. I wanted the look, And lo and behold, we tried it, and I like the sound just fine too. It sounds great. Ebony's a snappy wood. It's got a fast kind of attack, and I liked it on my Les Paul Custom and stuff. So I've had guitars with ebony before, but I didn't know. It's like, how's that work with single coils? And that's fine. It sounds great. It sounds awesome. I love the way the single coils sound on this guitar. So, but it does feel a little more like maple, which I like. I like maple fingerboard. So it's got, ebony's a close grain kind of wood. It feels a little different than rosewood with its more porous kind of feel. Rosewood just feels a little rougher or something. Ebony's so smooth, Anyways, you were asking about the pickup. So the Thornbucker 2 that's in this guitar was born out of that EVH pickup shootout. We didn't copy an EVH pickup though, because we do our wind, which is different. So something like a Duncan 78 is an A2 9K pickup with a specific wind. The way that I understand it is that when Seymour did a pickup for Ed around late 78, 79, whenever he wound that pickup for Ed, he took a PAF that was an A2 magnet, and then he wound the coils as full as he could with that certain gauge. I think it's 43 gauge wire. And he did this specific wind pattern that allowed him to kind of pack the coil. And when he used that gauge wire, wound the way that he wound them, you ended up at a pickup about 9K. So it's a specific wind pattern that he would do, I guess, and that's the Duncan 78, essentially. There's a whole bunch of pickups that are kind of based on that, and maybe subtle interpretations of that. I don't know, like the Pariah Pastina White, and different ones that are 9K 2 PAFs. Well, I just tried these pickups and I discovered that I really like that sound. But I thought, what if we do our wind, which is different? It's the Thornbucker wind is there's an offset to it that we worked hard to sort of painstakingly wind pickups and find, because if you by offset I mean the coils are wound differently, and if you do that wrong, I mean, what is wrong? But if you do it wrong, it can sound weird, like hollow and weird. And so we had to find that sounds really good, like right the one where it sounded great. So I thought, what if we take our wind and then do that up to 9K with an A2? So that's where our pickup differs a little bit. Is it's not going to be, I believe the 78 and the original pickup that was done for Ed and stuff was a matched coil. It was just that both coils wound, like I say, in a certain wind pattern that allowed him to get a lot of wire on there of that gauge. Because you could go with a different wire and then actually wind it hotter. That's what hotter pickups are. When you get up to a 14K pickups and stuff, you've only got so much room on the coil, so you have to use different gauge, and then you end up with different sound, of course. So it's all interesting. But anyways, that's the story. So my pickup is basically sort of an EVH themed pickup, power wise and all that, and I love the sound, but it's probably got its own character that is maybe a little more. It's the Thornbucker thing. It's got a little more single coily thing to it because of our certain offset that we do and stuff. I think it's not exactly single coil, but you guys know what I mean. Like if you're a PAF aficionado, that all the if you do the slight offsets and stuff like that, you get a pickup that's the trade-off is it can be ever so slightly less hum canceling. It's still hum canceling, but it's like when you've got an exact matched coil. Then the pickup that I've tried that is amazing for this is a super distortion. Super distortions have the same metal, same pull pieces, right, in both coils, and the coils are exactly the same. Everything's the same. They're one of the most quiet humbuckers that I've ever tried because of the metal being exactly the same. Everything is the same in both coils. So if you want a very, very quiet pickup, the super distortion is the quietest one I've ever heard, actually, especially for a high output pickup. The second that you do, I believe, I think, and I bet like DiMarzio would back me on this and stuff. The second that you do a screw coil and a slug coil, even if the coils are matched, they're not exactly the same, and the pickup is not quite as hum canceling. Because I asked him this question, so directly about the hum canceling thing. But anyways, yeah. And Todd says, I love how you have kind of a Filtertron aesthetic. And that's the cover that we choose on the guitar. So the cover on this guitar is called a window cover, but this pickup is available without that. Or, you can do it with that if you want. Or you can get a nickel cover, or you can get a gold cover. You can it'll be available in whatever cover you want. So, but it's got kind of a, in the guitar, the way that we're doing is with the window cover. And I love that look too. It gave it a real, it's just distinct, right? The whole thing with this guitar was trying to make something that looks classy and classic, but also new and different. And you won't have, right away, right? Like if it's my model and you've seen it once and you knew who I was or whatever, and you've seen this, that's Pete Thorn model, right? And that's what I wanted, but that it doesn't look all, crazy or futuristic or something. I wanted it to look classic. So yeah. Does it split? It does split. Yeah. So in position 2 on my guitar, it's auto split right there. And it sounds amazing auto split. I'm discovering that the warmer A2, like really sweet top end, then I can pull this and do the, series parallel, and then it's got a cut to it that's really great. You get way more top end in parallel, but it's like not too much. It just sounds really good. And then if you find it's too much with your amp setting, just roll the tone down to like 6 or 7, and then it's amazing. Like you get this kind of, it's not single coil, but it's like almost better because it's still hum canceling. So you get this range of, like, in other words, full series is a great sound. The parallel, maybe with the tone rolled down a little bit, is a great sound. And then split coil, auto split, this coil and this coil is a great sound. So I'm getting all these, like, out of those 3 tones, I'm getting all these great kind of bridge and middle tones that I'm just loving out of this guitar, with a whole range of stuff going on. That's just cool. It's nice to have a guitar where it's like you can switch and go, well, that's a cool sound. That's cool. What if I do that? And with this pickup, the way it rolls down with the treble bleed that's on, it's just perfect. So you can also get that sound where you roll it down to 6 or 7 or something. Like, oh man, that's a good sound too, like full series, but roll it down a little bit, and it's got a nice clarity to it. So it's nice to go, that's a good sound, and then go to position 2. Well, that's a good sound. And then the series parallel, if they go to parallel, that's a good sound. Like, it's almost hard to pick sometimes on a part what you want to use, because they all sound cool. So anyways, yeah. Okay, what do you recommend for upgrading an entry-level guitar, best bang for the buck in terms of improving tone? Well, number one's a good setup on an entry-level guitar. Like, it's got to be set up well. Like, a good nut is so important. And a lot of entry-level guitars, a lot of pro-level, like a lot of expensive guitars, don't have a properly cut nut. So getting that done can really affect playability, which in turn affects sound, I think, because you just sound better playing it. But many times, pots, electronics, if they're not quite right, pickups, can be good, to upgrade on. Because pickups can be crap on entry-level guitars. Is there a signature Pete Thorn guitar strap? No, but I would love to do one actually at some point, because comfortable strap is important to me. Yeah. What else we got here? Backing up here. Are Dumble amps overrated? I mean, I think that I remember seeing an article from, or an interview with Arlen Roth. Do you guys remember Arlen Roth? He was a really good guitar player. He had some Hot Licks courses out, and he was an instructor that had in the 80s, and that where he put out a lot of instructional stuff. And he was like a good solid guitar player, and he was kind of a working guitar player that I think he did a lot of gigs, kind of, sideman kind of stuff. And then he also did courses and stuff. And I remember him having this very working man's perspective about playing guitar. And he used, like, he might have played PV Classic 50 amps and stuff in the 80s and 90s. And I remember him saying, yeah, it just works. It's like a good working man's amp. Like, like, I don't have time for all that, I also remember, like, Stuart Smith saying the same thing. And he's a PV Classic 50 player. He plays in the Eagles and with Don Henley. And when I was in Don's band, the way he would talk about gear, he's like, I don't have time for it. He really liked guitars. He had nice, like, vintage guitars and stuff. But amps and pedals, he's like, I don't have time for all that. And he's like, I got basic stuff that that works well for me. And he wasn't interested in expensive amps. But then you've got everybody from Clapton to Mayer to Joe Bonamassa, and they're all about the Dumbles and stuff, and the difference. So the different schools of players, and I guess you're seeing a difference there in income, with the guys that have made a lot of money, and they all of a sudden have it's all relative, right? Because I mean, if you've got the money, it just becomes a tax write-off, and maybe you need that anyway, So is it overrated? I mean, yeah, I guess the value of $1 is different to some people, and to some people, paying $75,000 for an amp might just, like I say, maybe it's financially beneficial at some point to be a write-off, if you're going to end up giving it all to the tax man anyway at the end of the year, sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, And it's probably not the answer that you wanted, but they sound really good to me. Dumbles, they have a good sound. Is it an $80,000 sound? I mean, what is? I don't know. I haven't had one here in my studio. I've only played them elsewhere. The amp that I've had here that was like really expensive, kind of in a similar way, the train wreck that I had here that I made a video of. I made an Amps in the Zone video of it. It was a Liverpool. It sold for over 50 grand. The guy let me borrow it for like a week and play it. And it was unbelievable sounding. I mean, it was like if you watch it in the video, how it feeds back and stuff. And just imagine being in the room with it. It was unbelievable. It was like it's just almost clean, and the harmonics come in, and it's just like this thing is like an inspiration machine, man. Like, and it wasn't even that loud. It's like they're like 30 watts, and it just sounded like like angels. I don't know how else to describe it. It's amazing. Could you do it in a new amp? I think so. Probably for less money. I mean, it's just. I was talking about this with Friedman the other day. They're basically boxes of parts, and it's a magic collection of a box of parts where if you just do the right thing, you kind of get there with the circuit and it can sound great. So, like, could you mass produce a train wreck, for a reasonable price? Maybe, I don't know. But that one, I there's something to them, I've never heard anything quite like it. You can hear it plain as day in that video I did of it, so and there's always it's beyond just being an amp that sounds like that, because the sound, that's where it starts. It's amazing, but there's a whole story to it, and the cabinet, and there's less than 50 of them out there, I think, something like that, 50 made or something. And each one had a name. I mean, when you start doing that, it's like you're making something that's destined to be collectible almost. It's got to sound good. If it sounded like crap, nobody would care. So it sounds good, but then you've given it a name and everything, and then the builder ends up passing away and gets older and stuff, and now there's only a certain number of them out there, and there's folklore, the whole story, collectibles. What's your opinion about the prices of vintage guitars? I haven't looked, man. I don't even know what vintage guitars are going for right now. I mean, they were crazy the last time I looked, but I haven't looked recently to see. I just kind of haven't had money for that. Around the time I got into trying to buy a home, I was like, I just put all my focus on that and quit thinking about buying gear. I mean, I still buy gear. God, I just spent, it's kind of funny because it's like people give me shit like anybody gives people shit sometimes. But like my in-ears, my ASI in-ears, I made a video for them recently, and it's like I just bought a set of ASI in-ears with the mics in them, and I bought the custom molds. So they're a 4-driver with custom molds and the mics built in. Well, they're expensive. I got a little bit of a discount. I made a video for them, but it's like they cost me, it's like thousands. And it's like people could be like in the video, they're like, this is just marketing or whatever. Some guy left a comment like, this is BS. And I'm like, God, I just like, do you want to see my Visa bill for like what I paid for these? I believe in them, It's like, so I'm still buying gear, but it's more like I buy things. I just don't, I'm not like the go out and spend a bunch of money on vintage guitars guy, I guess. A lot, I've got a few, and I did it over the years. When one really speaks to me, I'll make it happen. My Telly, my Strat, my 335. That's over like 15 years of, I only buy them. Oh, I guess my Destroyer too, which is the last sort of vintage guitar. Definitely solidly vintage, 76 Ibanez Destroyer. I love the damn thing. It's amazing. I'm glad I got it. It wasn't inexpensive, but it wasn't crazy money either. So, I'll buy them occasionally. P90s 250K, pots are 500K for better tones. It's up to you, man. I mean, I don't know. You might want to experiment even with a 300K. I would say probably 250, but if you find it dark with your setup, you can go 500 or experiment with something in the middle, like a 300. It depends on what you're plugging into and whether you get it. Honestly, I would probably start at 250 and then see what did Gibson use? Anybody out there know what's standard on a P90? I don't even know. I don't know that, but my guess is that it's 250. I don't know. I would listen to it, and if you find it bright or dark, go one way or the other with that pot, and you'll get a little more of that roll off or a little less. Yeah. The Helix train wreck is amazing. That's interesting. I should try that. I guess I've probably passed over it and not, you know, I'll have to give it a try, see what it sounds like in my Helix. The thing about a train wreck is that in a model, an Axe effect, something, it's going to sound, you might get a cool sound like the chimey, kind of, semi-overdriven, like, oh wow, that sounds really great thing. But the magic in the room of the amp turned up loud through the cabinet, vintage Celestians or whatever you can get, is where the magic really lives. Like the tone is only one. The tone is 50%, and then the other 50% is the life, the alive harmonic thing that comets do to a certain degree too, and that where one note becomes three when you play it, and you only get that out of volume with a cabinet in the room. So that's the only thing, the tone is only part of the picture, if that makes sense. There's more to it than just the raw tone or whatever. I hope that makes sense. Should I sell my house and buy a Dumble in a 66 Strat? No, I wouldn't suggest that you do that ever. Yeah. That Randy Rhoads V3 is sitting at 147K. I know, I heard that guitar I had here that I made the video. And it was around 93 when I made the video, I think. So take that for what you will. What a world we live in. It's a crazy world. Yeah, I could put 75K in a lot of places in my rig besides just having one Dumble, right? I slurped, sorry. 75K, I would probably look for a Les Paul Gold Top before I got a Dumble. Yeah, I would. Over the amp, I would look for a humbucker, early 58 or 57 Les Paul Gold Top that was somewhat affordable. Could I even find one for that for 75 or 80? Maybe if it had like some overspray or non-original tuners or something, maybe you could get one for that. I don't know. Certainly if it had a headstock repair. Yeah. Eric's asking about Dumbles were built according to individual players and what worked for them. Overrated? Probably not. Yeah, same with train wrecks. They're all different. There's a lot of similarity there. I just think a train wrecks is sounding a little bit more British, but even though that some of them are actually kind of like, they've got a lot going on that's sort of Fendery in the circuit on some of them. I think on Liverpool, although it's EL84s, I think there's a lot of sort of Fender going on in the front end. So they're totally their own thing, actually. They're unique in their design. Are there any benefits to using either passive or active DI if you're already using a good quality USB interface? Good question. So you mean to plug into the 1/4-inch input on the front of your, whatever your interface is, or to use a DI and go into the line input, or mic input? It depends, I would say. Like for instance, bass players really like using a Noble DI. That it's a tube DI in a box, that's got it's all the rage with bass players. It's got a sound to it, and you're going to run that line out into the interface and go into a low impedance input of some sort, I guess. Probably will sound different, a guitar API, they make some DI boxes that you can run into, that have little EQ controls and even a compression circuit built in. I mean, that's a whole specified kind of thing, if you're using plugins and stuff, mainly for your tones. I'll tell you what, I don't really do it. I mean, I just run right into my UA, into the high Z input on the fronts, and then I use the plugins to augment the sounds, and I get sounds I'm very happy with. But I think it's more of a bass player thing, the DI thing. They get their specific DIs that they're really like, and guitar players aren't as into that kind of thing as because guitar players are a little more into running into amps. Bass players, arguably on recordings and sometimes live, it's sometimes the only sound you hear in the PA is the DI. Sometimes it's 50%, blended with an amp or whatever. So it's a little bit more of a bass player thing, I think. And they're a little more into their, you know, there's more DI pedals and preamp pedals for bass than there is for guitar for that reason, I think. So, what's your application, Harry? Like, are you plugging an acoustic guitar in to play the pickup into it, or are you live, or oh no, I guess you're saying USB interface, so it's probably for recording. But are you using plugins? You know, is it a good interface, high quality? You say good quality. Is it? You know, I mean, I think my UA interfaces, I think the high Z input sound just fine. You know. Jeff says he's just been listening to the Tremonti Sing Sinatra album. For those out there that didn't know, Mark Tremonti, great guitar player, did a Sinatra album. He's singing Sinatra full on. He sounds amazing. It's really good. You got to check it out if you haven't. It'll blow you away. It's really cool. I sent him a message. I was like, dude, like, so impressed. Like, you know, like what a talk about doing something different. It was really cool. So really, really great. I love when people, you know, go out on a limb and do something different. Any Five for Fighting shows coming to the Midwest? Yeah, all kinds of them. We'll be in Ohio, and we'll be in, I believe, Indiana. We're playing Fort Wayne. It's just in Fort Wayne. We're going to be back in Fort Wayne. We're playing, you know, all over the place. We're doing some gigs in New York, Connecticut, I think, Massachusetts. But then, yeah, also like Milwaukee. We do, so we're all over the place. The dates, let me see if they're on John's website right now. I would assume they are. Them. Fighting tickets. Of course, the first thing that pops up is a StubHub link. Let's see here. I'm going to see if there's some info on the site. You might have seen yesterday that I put up a post. John Andrazik did a video that's unbelievable with the Ukraine orchestra, and actually did it in Ukraine. He went there, like, this is recently, and the video is incredible. So if you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. And he's going to be performing the song on the tour that we're doing. So, okay, yeah, here, if you go to, I'm going to post this link, and it's just fiveforfighting.com, but on the right side of the homepage, all the tour dates pop up. You can click a link that'll show you it's fiveforfighting.com, and you can click a link where it says show all dates, and you can see them all. So Wisconsin, and you know, we've got one coming up in Oregon. That's the first one I'm on. Minnesota, Illinois, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, a couple in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Massachusetts, New York, North Carolina, Georgia, another in North Carolina, St. Louis, we're there, Michigan, you know, we're all over the place. So it's going to be fun. So I'm headed out. That the proper tour starts in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah. Big fan, says Steven. Thanks for the super chat, dude. What was it like working with Don Henley? Great. Loved it. You know, some pressure, expectation to deliver. And as long as you did that, it was all great. It was, the feeling at the end of the night was like, it's Miller time. That was a job well done. Very serious, you know, like kind of like, but it's, there's a weight to the music that you feel because it's these classic songs, and there's a responsibility to deliver, you know, and it's a real, for me, it was a real career highlight, to be honest, because being up there with those guys, all those guys, the other guys in the band, except for Lance, the bass player, everybody else are all tour with the Eagles. So they're all part of the Eagles touring outfit. So now you're there with basically all the Eagles guys, except, you know, Joe's not there, and Timothy's not there, and Vince isn't there now, you know, but your responsibility is to kind of, you know, play Don's music and then some bunch of Eagles music, and kind of fill that void with now you're playing. I was playing a lot of Joe's parts, you know, and so you feel that, you know, this is a serious job. And when you look around the stage, you're just like, there's a little bit of a imposter syndrome that, that I think if you're a well-adjusted human being, I think most well-adjusted human beings have that. It's like, and maybe that little bit of, do you know what I'm talking about? That little bit of like, yeah, that's what drives you to do good, and then you do it, and then you get through it, and you're like, I did a good job. That was great. I feel good about it. And some nights, might not feel that way, but as long as just that responsibility I always felt. It was a little bit of a heavy feeling in that band, and then you just do it, and then you get through it, and everybody's happy, and it's a fun group of guys, and it's like, and Don was always really cool to me. I've always maintained that, that he, I like him as a guy, and I always appreciate seeing him now, and to this day. So it was a good time in my life, doing that, and yeah, that's that story. Love to work with him again in some capacity. Hope it happens. If you play an AC30 through a Marshall 412 rather than a 212 open back, would it still have that Vox chime? Well, kinda, yeah, but and it's a cool sound, like AC30 and a greenbacks is a cool sound. It's just not the quintessential Vox sound. And a big part of that Vox sound to me is the speakers. So, by the way, I have a video coming out. The first thing that I'm putting out that I did at the Sweetwater Gear Fest is a video that I'll probably try and put it out tomorrow or the next day. Monday, Tuesday, it'll come out. And it's so kind of made in conjunction with UA. I'm interviewing James Santiago, who is the designer of many of the UA products, like the aux, as well as all the new pedals. So we specifically kind of veered towards talking about the Ruby, which is the Vox style modeler pedal. And we got into a deep discussion about AC30s and variations between AC30s and differences between AC30s and speakers, as well as like the circuits, the normal channel, the vibe channel, what he likes about it, certain things. And then how different boosts work with the AC30s. And it became this kind of really cool off the cuff discussion. Just, I think you guys will like it. So, and it's a long video. It's 35 minutes long with some playing examples of the new pedals and talking about what he was going for with the circuits and the boosts, like really specific stuff. So that'll be out tomorrow or the next day. And I'm still trying to figure out what to call it. I mean, maybe just all about AC30s featuring the UA, Ruby, and James Santiago or something like that. I don't know. But then that sounds too long to me for a title. So I'll figure it out. Anyway, we love AC30s. Good stuff. Can't be easy playing Joe's parts. Yeah, he's a unique player with a lot of humor and, but it's fun. He's a fun guitar player to emulate. His solo in Hotel California is brilliant. And I used to play his solo in Dirty Laundry. That's a blast, That was, we generally would start the set with Dirty Laundry, and I get to play that solo right out of the gate, which was nerve-wracking, but also really fun. And it's kind of, there's a delay, bang, bang, dang, dang, that bounces back on it. So you got all this echo coming back. So it's not really that hard to play because the delay is so loud that, that you're kind of masked by that. So you just go up front and rock out and play it, but you're not really warm yet. That was always my memory of is that really unique lick that starts the solo. So it's playing it slow, right? What a cool lick, right? So that the weird, with the flat 5 weird tritone strange. If you want to do a cool lick in a bluesy kind of context, let's say you're in E and you're like, and then you want to freak people out, just go, go like, so, I'm going like the 12th fret on the A string, the A note, and then playing the major 7, which isn't obviously in the key, on the 13th fret on the 4th string. And then I'm playing the A on the 3rd string. And people think, oh, he's so outside, so sophisticated. And I'm just descending in half steps. Something like that, cool lick, like within your rock blues, and you'll see people respond. It'll like grab the rear, because it's so weird. As long as you resolve it, kind of fun. Diminished fifths, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Augmented fourths, diminished fifths. What else we got here? Supposedly Eddie Van Halen would boil his strings and let them dry in the sun for 20 minutes. I heard he did do that, yeah. I used to try it when I was a kid because I heard he did it. It sort of did something, but not really. He claimed it sort of helped them stay in tune. I don't know, if it was really worthwhile or not. It's not something I ever did after the 80s. Best IR loader, like for a software program, I'd really like Wall of Sound, mainly because I'm using my signature IRs in it. I've got my cabinets loaded in there, and it's just I can go to it and I know exactly what. Yeah, it's just a useful program, but you can also load other third-party IRs in it and stuff, and it works good. So I tend to use that. I tend to use Wall of Sound, the 2 Notes program, or the associated. What's the mobile or the one that works on iPhone? I don't even know if it's the same as Wall of Sound. I can't remember right now. I actually haven't been doing a lot, to be honest, with IRs for the last little while. I've just been using my cabinet a lot. So most of the videos I've made over, say, the past 4 months have been all just the cabinet mic'd in the other room. It's just, I got it set up right where I like it, and it just works really well. So, but I love IRs too. Just got the Quad Cortex. Sounds awesome. What power amp would you prefer to use? So I'm using a Matrix, which works great. I like Matrix guitar power amps because they're like 1 rack space, really light, tons of power, and they seem to sound good. So it just works well for me. So look at what Matrix has to offer. Liverpool has so many bars. Where to start? Matthew Street for Beatles related stuff like the Cavern and Rubber Soul. The Cavern is really fun. You got to go to the Cavern, but it's its own thing. It's kind of touristy, but it's really fun down there. Man, is the Cavern ever fun? It's not the original Cavern. It got moved or closed in 73, and then they rebuilt a new one just down the road, a little bit. Years later, I don't know, 10 years later or something, it was rebuilt using a lot of the original bricks and stuff, evidently. And it looks like, when you see the pictures of the Beatles in the Cavern, it looks the same and everything. So it's cool. The spirit's there, I think. Other bars. There's a metal bar I really like in Liverpool. I think it's called the Swan, maybe. Let me see if I can find it here. It's just a dive, but it's cool. It might be called the Swan. And you'll go in there, I'll be playing Motorhead and stuff, and it's cool. Yeah, the Swan Inn, I believe it is called. And then once you're there, I think that's it. Swan Inn. I think that's it. It sure looks like it. Yeah. The Swan. That's it. I'm looking at a picture of the inside now. That's totally it. The Swan Inn. It's just kind of a, it's a pub, and they play metal, and it's cool. And it's open super late. So I like that a lot. The Philharmonic pub is really cool because it's right across the street. It's where Paul McCartney filmed the concert a little while ago. Oh, it was when he did James Corden. It was supposed to be like this unannounced thing or whatever, where, look, Paul McCartney's at the pub. We always play the Philharmonic with Classic Rock Show, which is Kitty Corner. So the concert hall. So the pub is right there, and it's got good food, and it's really cool, and it's beautiful pub. It's an upscale kind of place, though. It's nice. So that's cool. So either that or the Swan for a dive. There's mini bars in the neighborhood of the Swan if you just kind of walk around there, around Bold Street and the surrounding area. There's kind of a lot of different places to go around there. Great coffee, Bold Street Coffee in Liverpool. Love that. And great for breakfast too. They've got nice, like, kind of breakfast options there. And right next door, there's I can't remember the name of it, but it's kind of a tapas sort of place right next door to Bold Street Coffee, and I love eating there. It's nice to go for a glass of wine, get some food and stuff. So there's a couple of recommendations for Liverpool, which has become a little bit of a home away from home. Brooks says he was messing with the PT100 plugin in Luna, which is the UA DAW. Amazing. Thanks. Yeah, I love it too. I think it's really, really, really good. They did a great job. A great job. Tried out the Celestion IRs with my THU overloud. Sounds great. Just having a hard time loading the DSR version. Yeah, the DSRs won't work. I don't think. Because DSRs only work within, I think, within the Celestion plugin. Because it needs to, you need their kind of software or whatever to decode the whole DSR dynamic thing. So you'll have to get the Celestion IR loader to do that. Pretty sure. Thoughts on the Friedman small box versus the SL67, looking for more vintage Marshall tones. The small box is a great modern option with an effect loop and a, master volumes, 2 channels, all that. The Plexi channel is basically straight up Plexi. It's really cool. The small box is going to be a little more versatile. The SL67 is true 50 watt vintage Plexi with the added advantage. One thing that you can't get for sure with the small box is that it's got the Variac thing built in, so you can do the 90 volt thing built in. It's a little bit more a traditional thing, but you do have that post phase inverter master on the back, which is really usable to just tame the volume a little bit and get it down to club volume or even home volume, I guess. My niece hurt says tapas or topless. I said tapas, not topless. It's not a topless place serving. Don't ever go to a topless place and get food. I don't think that's a good idea. The buffet in the topless place. I seem to remember that was a thing in Canada in the 80s. Strip clubs which seemed a little odd to me. Buffet and strippers. Bad idea. Don't do that. Go to the topless place for food. Then if you must, go to the topless place. No, I don't know. I'm not advocating. I'm just talking shit. What else? Oh, we were on this question. So you've basically got modern and you've got vintage. And if I wanted a straight vintage Plexi, but with a couple modern features in the 90 volt thing to do the full Eddie Van Halen thing, I would probably lean in the SL67 direction. If I wanted a 50 watt that's a little more versatile with more gain, a little bit of mod options, but can also do the Plexi thing quite well, like for sure, then I'd go small box. There's some crossover there. Is it weird that my amp sounds wildly different when mic'd up versus in the room, like going from awful sounding in the room to sounding good when mic'd? Well, that tells me your room sounds really bad. Usually it's the other way around. But if your speaker sounds good when you're up close to it, and then you back off and it sounds really crazy in the room, then that probably means your room's really live or something. Maybe you want to get some deaden it down a little bit or something. Maybe is it sound harsh and because if there's a lot of hard surfaces in the room and stuff, just guitar amp can be unfriendly, so Mateus Asado, is this man as good as they say? He's amazing on guitar, man. I mean, he just sounds like he's naturally musical and he's got his style that he does, but he can he's pretty versatile. He can shred, because he started off shredding, I think, so that's in there, but then he got into more soulful, John Mayer meets Jimi Hendrix kind of stuff, and then did his own thing with it. And he's just, he's kind of like a lot of Brazilian musicians that I've seen, where this is a very musical culture. I think it's a very artistic culture, and you see these amazing players come out of Brazil, honestly, so I think it's in the water down there or something. No, it's not that, but it's like, it's in the culture for sure. Like music and art, you grow up with it. And it's just kind of like part of the thing there that, I got it a little bit when I was down there. I seemed to there just seemed to be a lot of musicians and and it's kind of high level, musicians. So you see a lot of good guitar players and a lot of good, all kinds of musicians from Brazil. It's a rich musical culture. And I think that just you know, permeates and then helps to inform if you're a music student. There's something to it, I think. Are you a fan of all rosewood necks? I don't have any experience with them. Like, I've never owned one of these tellies that is all rosewood. I have a thing about rosewood where it feels to me like it's oily, and like maybe it would be more, if you built a guitar out of rosewood, it might be kind of dead sounding, but I don't have any basis for that. Like, but if somebody was watching this, like Sir or somebody, I would ask him if he thought there was any truth to that, just because it's kind of just the wood being kind of like not, to me, it's not a dry wood, and to me, dry woods, something baked in a kiln or aged over years, they just have this kind of ring to them where it's like, whereas rosewood feels dense or denser to me, as a fingerboard wood. And then also like a whole neck or a whole body made out of rosewood. I don't know, if that, I don't have anything to base it on because I've never tried it, but, I'm going to ask Sir right now and see if he gets back to me within the course of us being here. I like to do this sometimes, just text him. How should I word this? Do you feel like rosewood as a body or neck wood would be kind of dead sounding? Because let's see what he says. I'm interested. He'll know. He's done it, I'm sure, many times. I found a great picture of John the other day from an old Daddario ad. I'm going to share it with you right now, just in a lo-fi way. Hold it up to but here it is. Master Luthiers. There's John in the, that won't focus very well, but you could see him sitting there in a shop with a guitar, and it was a Daddario ad from like the 80s. I guess that's probably his shop at Pensa, Sir, the Rudy Pensa, Rudy's music. Must be. How much do you practice daily? It depends what I'm doing. It really, these days when I'm practicing, it's to do something specific. I spend a lot more time writing and recording than I do practicing guitar. I spend time working. Basically, it's generally means to an end kind of stuff at this point. Most of my practicing was in my formative years, which is probably why I sound exactly the same as I did 20 years ago. No, I'm sure I sound somewhat different, but why do I want a blue amp so bad? Blue guitar amp so bad? Well, because you like Thomas. He's a nice guy, and he's an intelligent guy, and he seems to make some good stuff that seems to work well for musicians. Seems to be a good hybrid kind of approach, like, still an amp, but portable and all that. And I like that stuff too. I mean, I love the idea of stuff like that. So, yeah. Have you tried the PS Vane 12X7s? Yes, I have. Sure, like the Shugwang ARS tubes in the PT15. I wish I could get a few. So try the PS Vane. I tried 3 in a PT15, and they sounded better to me than actually the Shugwang, but they were tested and they were the high gain, So they've also come out with a new one recently that looks exactly like a JJ, like a JJ ECC 83, but I hear it sounds better. There's a lot of positive stuff going on there. So if you could find 3, like from a vendor that tests the gain and tests the microphonics, get some and try them in the PT15 and see what you think. I thought they sounded a little more full through the mids, just a little less hair on the top end, but not in a dark way, just in a cool, like a little more pleasant actually in the top end. And I even recorded and then did a match EQ thing where I looked at the difference. So I played a looper clip through the amp. This is how geek I am. And my TC did a looper, and I played the riff, a bunch of chords and stuff through the tubes, changed all the preamp tubes out. The main ones, not for the loop, but the main ones in the front end of the PT that, would change the tone. And then I played the same looper clip and I recorded them both. And then I looked at the frequency differences, and it corresponded to what I heard, which was just, it seemed like they were a little richer in the mids, the PS Vanes, good gain and everything. So happy about that, because I like the Shugwang ARS, those 12X7s. They work good in modern amps and have for 20, 30 years, So, yeah. Let's see if John got back to me. Nope, not yet. He probably won't. And then he'll hit me back later and I'll say it's too late. Let's see. Rosewood, very hard and porous. Yeah, it seems hard, porous, oily to me. I think. Maybe. Little lull here while I read your questions. Let's see. Just look for EVH guitar strings, says Horst. You will find them. EVH strings, in the 80s, EVH had Ernie Ball, I believe, making the 5150 strings, and they were 9, 11, 15, 24, 32, 40 gauge, which was just like his old Fender 150 XLs from the 70s, pure nickel. It's important. The pure nickel thing, I mean, it's a little more like the, nickel rockers from GHS, or, they're not, and then I think later on he went to a nickel plated steel 9 to 42. He just kind of went with a regular 9 set later on. But in those early days, he was using pure nickel and he never changed his strings. So that's going to have an effect on the guitar sound. Like, I mean, you play them for a couple of days and they're warm after that. They definitely sound warmer than a nickel plated steel. Certainly all steel string, it's a different thing, the pure nickel thing. And especially the gauge makes a big difference in the feel for me. Yeah. So, do you ever use a sub kick mic to record guitar? No, I don't. You mean like one of those big NS10 looking things that looks like a NS10 woofer? I've never tried that on guitar. Not a thing that I've done. What else? A few super chats here. Have you ever seen Matthew Scott on here? Younger guy from Oklahoma that nails the SRV and Hendrix styles and tones with his own twist. I haven't. No. I'll have to check him out one of these days. Have not. Let's see. Have you tried Bad Cat amps? A little bit. More Matchless back in the day, which became Bad Cat, I guess, sort of later, right? Or sort of branched off, and then Matchless still exists, but Bad Cat, yeah. I really enjoyed the original DC30 amp. It was a really, really nice amp, kind of AC30, but did its own thing, and was a good sounding amp. And I've played in a band with a guy that had the SC, it was called the SC30. It was a single speaker version of the same thing, I think. And he sounded really good all the time playing with that thing. It was when I was using my top hat. So I guess we both had sort of AC30 kind of amps. Is Sir coming out with a PT40? We have a new amp coming. It'll probably be more like a 50 watt, but we'll see what the wattage ends up being. But we've worked on it. And I'm going to keep working on it. Is there another super chat I missed? No, I don't think so. I answered that one about the PS Vanes and the Matthew Scott. So I think that's it. Mayor is a wimp, says Jen Bob. He is not a wimp. I've told my mayor story on here many times, but you get up in front of a crowd of 6,000 people with an acoustic guitar and blow them the hell away. Let me see you do it. He knocked me out doing that stuff, man. Just quick version of the story. First time I met him was a gig in the park in New York. It was supposed to be a full band set. It was pouring rain. The monitor console got ruined from water pouring on it. And I just met the guy. He was very calm and cool and collected. Meanwhile, there's chaos going on because there's so much rain. And somebody runs up and goes, "We just lost the monitor console. Like, it's dead." It's a big show out in the park, with full band, and they're about to go on stage. And so he goes, "I can give you a couple wedges from front of house, but that's about it." And I mean, you have a full band with drums and bass and keys and background singers, the whole 9 yards. And he goes, he thought about it, and he goes, like, I'm going to go out and do it solo. Just give me acoustic guitar, give me a couple wedges with my voice and the guitar, and I'll do it solo. And he goes, and he said, I'm going to give him a show too. And he just kind of seemed like totally chill. He was just like relaxed about it. Whatever, I was like, wow, okay. And then he goes up on stage and just kicked ass with an acoustic guitar. Everybody there was like 6,000 people in this park waiting to see him, even with the rain. And he didn't cancel. He went out and did it and gave him at least an hour or something, and was great. And everybody laughed and felt like, even in the rain, it was like, so wimp. I'd be scared shitless, but they're he's a complete musician, man. And then we went out. He was totally chill. We went out later that night, and maybe my experience is colored because he bought me sushi at Nobu that night. But and he was very nice, and we talked about guitars and amps, and I really enjoyed it. So nothing but respect for that guy. There you go. Did the band still get paid? I'm sure they did. Yeah. I mean, yeah. In that instance, you get paid. If you're there. It didn't make any difference. The people got their show, and it was, it was good. Yeah, people that bag on John, I don't understand it. He's a really good musician, man. He's like, it's just jealousy. It's jealousy, Jim. Come on. Tough love, Jim. He's a good, solid, really good guitar player. I think very musical guy. He's written gajillion songs. He's a great singer. He works really hard. Well, I don't know, man. I think people just like to, Atomic Punk says I met him once. He was nice to me. He's nice. He's a guitar geek. He loves talking about amps and pedals and guitars, and he'll get into like a deep discussion about tubes and stuff. He's just a guitar nerd that happens to be really talented and did really well. So I don't know, man. It's just people give him a hard time. He had his like he grew up like a lot of people. Like I feel like it's hard because these days you get these people young and then they got to grow up in the eye of social media and in the press. And they do certain interviews and they might say things that come off, but he was young, it's like, we all do stupid stuff. When I think about the stupid stuff I did when I was young, I just didn't happen to be in the press or social media, doing it. And stuff happens, and then it's like, I don't know, people like never let you live it down or something. It's weird. I don't know. So, Richard says, listen to the Trio record, and if you think that's wimpy, you think too much of yourself. The Trio, I'll tell you what, he's also incredibly smart, which is probably why people bag on him, but he did an amazing thing, which is, if you think of the Trio record, is that the live record that's done in LA that at the because there's one that's in LA and it's in an arena or whatever, and with Pino, and when I watched that, and you look out of the crowd, and it's like 75% female probably, and he's playing blues, and it's like, I was like, damn, this guy is so smart, because his career path was acoustic guitar in the beginning, kind of primarily, and Georgia and those songs, and it's not blues, he's like a male singer songwriter. He established himself doing that stuff. Hits to the point where he could kind of do whatever he wants. And then he goes and does the Trio, and he can play blues in front of people with it, and go, do it at the Forum or at the Staples Center, and it's full. Who does that? Nobody got that far with it. There's a lot of like this kind of like, because he could have just been another like Stevie Ray Vaughan guy, because that was like where he, guitar influences electric, right? And then he always would have been at that level, playing like maybe the most he would do is theaters or something, But no. He established himself as like a bona fide solo artist, singer, songwriter, badass. And then now I'm going to go do, basically essentially blues trio. And, it's amazing, to go do that, and go out there and throw down and do it in a, blues format. I don't know. I got a lot of respect for him. So his evolution is fantastic. Yeah, I agree. He kind of, he's really smart, once you establish yourself with a few hits, you get a pass to kind of go do what you want. At that point, you can make different kinds of records, experiment with different kinds of music. I remember you said Joe Perry is overrated. I don't ever want to say overrated. I just, I think Joe played some amazing stuff, you know. That I don't want to. It's I wouldn't want to sound like that. I just think that at times Joe's had out, you know, his own struggles. Probably, you know. I mean, it's not news that, you know, like the toxic twins and all that, you know, and there's struggles and stuff. And I just think that there's been times where I guess it's part of what I was just, maybe it's the downside of what I was just talking about, where it's like if you're in one of those bad spots or whatever, you can still go out there and you're still Joe Perry, you know, or whatever, and you can kind of skate on that a little bit, but your guitar might be really out of tune and you might not be so hot, and people will give it a pass, you know. And maybe that's part of rock and roll. It's cool, like whatever, you know. People are so critical these days. Maybe I shouldn't be that critical either, but you know what I mean. It's like Joe played some amazing stuff, you know. It's kind of amazing to me in rock, though, that the longevity of like the power of What a Dream On or a Walk This Way or whatever, and how far that can carry you. I mean, I have similar feelings about Guns N' Roses, you know, about certain bands, you know, where it's like the power of, like, I'm not saying it in a negative way. I'm just saying the power of like that one album, Appetite for Destruction. They're still a stadium band, you know. Um, you know, it used to be you felt like you had to stay current with like current hit singles and stuff coming out all the time in order to maintain that level. But there is a certain thing with certain bands, and maybe Aerosmith is one of those bands, you know, where that power of like essentially wasn't like a super long time, you know, that all those hits were created. I mean, we're talking about kind of early 70s through about 1987 when they had those really big. When did Permanent Vacation come out? You know, like you establish yourself for maybe a 10-year period with some hits or whatever, and that will carry you for maybe 40 years after that. It's kind of amazing, you know, rock and roll. Isn't that amazing? Any reply from Sir? Sorry, starting to get bored with my, yes, actually. Let's see what he said about Rosewood. No, it's fine, but super heavy, he said. I did try a guitar. So why do you think it didn't sound very good? He said he tried a guitar like Harrison's at Fender, 10 pounds or so, and it didn't sound very good. Just wondering if you think the Rosewood maybe isn't great for body or neck wood. Yeah, he just says it's kind of heavy. That's my, you know, it's like it's kind of dense and sort of my impression of a whole Rosewood guitar: dense, heavy, maybe a little on the dead side. Like, I don't know, you know. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Steven says GNR has to be the most overrated rock band from that era. They basically had one album, but it was one hell of an album, man. I mean, that album it's an amazing album. There's kind of no filler, you know. It's just, and that they do kind of stand alone in that, you know, that one great record. Like, they're not a one-hit wonder. They're not even a one album wonder, because of course they put out, I would say that maybe they wouldn't have the career that they do if they hadn't done Use Your Illusion and Have November Rain, and those songs maybe established them as a longer, kind of more career band. There was a couple hits. You Could Be Mine, right? There was that, and then there was the Live and Let Die cover, and the, you know, they had a few hits afterwards that helped establish them long term, I think. But it really was that one album that cemented them as like a, you know, they're a legendary rock band. Kind of, it's a little bit unprecedented. There's not too many. Is there another rock band you guys can think of that did that? Like one album that has made them like just absolutely like a stadium band. It's hard to think of, you know. Motley's out playing stadiums right now, but they had a bunch of records. You know, they had Shout of the Devil and Dr. Feelgood after that, you know, with some in between. The I guess the what was the one with I can't even remember the one in the middle there. I saw the tour, but I don't remember the name of it. But anyways, you know, there was always other bands that had like more records with. I guess GNR did too. I mean, you know, really, they sold multi-millions of the Use Your Illusion albums. It was a pretty big. That was it's huge too at the time. You know, it's just we compare it to the first record, I think. So, who else? Oh, Girls, Girls, Girls. Right. No, but I'm thinking of the other record, the one right before Girls, Girls, Girls. It came out in '85. It was the one with Theater of Pain. Is that what it was called? I think it had a couple like hits on it, but we don't remember that one as much as Girls, 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 and Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood is insane, right? So good. That record still sounds to me. It's like it's just a killer record. Let's send some positive vibes to Ty Tabor. 100%. He's struggling with some health issues. They didn't announce what it is. It sounded like it was kind of serious. I think they still are doing a tour in the States. It's not 100% canceled, but their Europe dates are not happening, I think, for now anyway. That guy's super sweet. Just such a nice guy. I had him on my channel. We did an interview a little while ago, and he was so kind. And, I'm a big King's X fan. So for me, it was a thrill. And I got nothing but respect for Ty. So 100%, let's send him good vibes. John says about Rosewood, better for a neck, but again, I think it's way too heavy. Don't know why it didn't sound good, but it didn't sound better than anything else. Yeah, I just kind of wouldn't, it's probably a difficult wood to just kind of, it seems like it's just best suited to fingerboards and stuff. So, or for acoustic guitars, sides and back and all that. AC/DC Back in Black. Yeah, but AC/DC has a ton of records, so that's not an example. I'm trying to think of a band that only has one album that really cemented them. Like, not Guns N' Roses didn't have an album before. That was it. And then they put out, the Spaghetti Incident, which is like an EP, right? And then Use Your Illusion, that was a double that came after that. Those are the main Guns N' Roses records. And really, if only Appetite existed, I think it would still be legendary. Is there another band that only had a record like that? That was Boston, not so much. Boston's got like, they had hits over decades. I remember when the third Boston album came out in '87, and I went to that tour. What the hell was it called? I don't remember, but it had hits on it. It had I can think of the song right now, but I can't remember the title. Boston was, the Cars. I think the Cars had a few records too. Sex Pistols. Good one. You nailed it. I don't think they're necessarily a stadium band, but yeah, Sex Pistols. You're right. That's the best I've never thought of another one. Rat. No, Rat's not a good example. I was around totally into Rat in the beginning, and they had Out of the Cellar, and then the next one came out with the hot chick on the cover. What the hell was it called? I'm forgetting the name. Of course, it had Lay It Down on it, and I'm forgetting the name. What is the name of the second Rat album? And then, of course, they had more after that. They had Detonator, and the one with was the next one after that came out around 90 called Dance, 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 or that was the single. I can't remember. But Rat had a bunch of records, to kind of cement them as more of a career band, Invasion of Your Privacy. That's right, Richard. Invasion of Your Privacy. That was the second Rat record. And, that record, they had, so of course, Round and Round and stuff on the first record, but then Lay It Down was badass. And, the riff and everything just kind of, and some other good songs on that record. So, the Galactic Cowboys. I liked that band. I haven't heard that name in a long time, but I don't think that really, Van Halen, no, because Van Halen had a ton of records. Extreme, Pornograffiti. Extreme had some other records though too that helped. The record before that was pretty cool, and they had one after that was pretty cool. So I'm just trying to think of like a one album band. Pearl Jam did have more records after 10, but 10 really did. 10 is kind of amazing. They're a unique band, Pearl Jam, with all their hits off of 10, and then, but the next one had that's really beautiful song, Better Man on it, and that's one of my favorite Pearl Jam songs, and I feel like that was a pretty big hit too. So Soundgarden, no, not Soundgarden. Soundgarden was a long, slow build with many records leading up to Super Unknown being kind of their Sgt. Pepper's. So Blue Murder, no. I mean, I'm talking about a band that could play big places now on the strength of one record. I think the Sex Pistols is, the closest I've seen to like a legendary band, like a household name kind of band. Stone Roses. I don't know enough about the Stone Roses to kind of like, that's a little bit more niche, but maybe I'm not sure. Quiet Riot. No. Yeah, I guess you're okay. Yeah, 10 million. True. That's a good point. Good point. It's interesting. I like this little discussion. Monster Magnet, but they had more than one record, really, didn't they? Not big either. Not as big as what I'm talking about. The Sex Pistols is the closest thing I've seen. Quiet Riot's an interesting. It was a really big record with big hits, and then kind of, just sort of didn't really. I mean, although they maintained as a band for quite a while with various members and stuff, right? The Darkness. No, I mean, I love the Darkness. I just saw them though at the El Rey. They're not I don't think so. I don't think they have more records too. That Dancing Undercover for Rat's other album. Yeah, Dancing Undercover was the one with Dance, 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 right? And that was a good record too, with some really cool. Does that have Way Cool Jr. on it? Yeah, I think, right? I should know this more. I'm friends with Warren. I should be more up on his career. I love Warren. I haven't talked to him in a long time. He's such a great guy. You guys should know that Warren DeMartini is a fantastic guy. He's just a sweet, sweet guy, like a really nice person outside of his guitar and band skills and stuff like that. A kind guy. Billy Idol? No, because Billy Idol had, I mean, White Wedding was pre. What was the Billy? I'm showing my lack of knowledge here. I'm trying to remember, like, what was the album called that White Wedding was on? Then we had Rebel Yell. Take me to the website here. Yeah, the self-titled Billy Idol album in 82. So we had that, and that really that was a hit, and then after that we had of course the Rebel Yell album, which feels like it almost should have been on the same record, right? But it wasn't. It's like and that really smacked. Once you got two records, it's a different thing, hits. Super chat here from Carlos. You always sound so good in your videos. Thanks, man. Also, the ones deep diving on Brown Sound are awesome. Wondering what you think of Tokyo Dome Tone. I've listened to that record a little bit. My friend Bob Clearmountain mixed it, and I would love to hear actually the master, the raw, just off the top of my head thinking about that. But I'll have to go back and listen to it again. My main Eddie Van Halen favorite sounds are certainly the six pack, the first six records. And I like what happened after, but I feel like, and I like the tone. I just feel like it's a little bit more when you add the harmonizing, which is a legendary tone, and it's really fun to play through too, and it's really cool. But it just kind of lends a sheen to the whole thing that was made it all a little more samey, I think. The Eventide era. And then once we get into the 90s, I thought the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album had some really interesting, kind of actually because it's supposedly using maybe Marshall as well as Soldano on that record, as well as the 3+ preamp on some stuff. Kind of on the cleaner side, though, like a lot of the tones, but some really cool sounds, and a lot of it's probably to do with Andy Johns as a producer. Just dialing in some really interesting stuff. And I like that he used the baritone on that album. That was cool. Balance tone, pretty cool. By then, we're probably into 5150s and stuff, and Fairburn producing, right? I think. After that, it's just not exactly the same thing to me. The sound in particular. And that, just those early tones are what really, it was really the Marshall and the, the way he did it in the early days and stuff. And then he drifted towards something else that he liked, but what else have we got here? Better Man wasn't on 10. No, I know it wasn't on 10. It was on Vitology, which was the third. Sorry, I thought it was on the second album. I wasn't suggesting it was on 10 though. My point was that Better Man was on the next record, and that then that was a pretty big hit for them, and that it sort of cemented them as having a hit beyond the songs on 10. But yeah, right. Sorry, third album, not second album. This is why I'm here. You guys got to keep me on the straight and narrow. Jellyfish, that was a legendary band. Yeah, should have been it's kind of a different thing where they had a great album and then just kind of went away, But yeah, I think the closest thing I've heard in this whole the whole discussion about did another band have a record similar to Guns N' Roses that cemented them as legends, really is the Sex Pistols. I think that's the closest thing, where it's just kind of a massive, household name. You guys are mentioning some other bands like Tesla, and Tesla they were really cool, but they're not on the same, I don't think, household name kind of, Black Crowes, but great first record, but they put out more and had hits and stuff. And, I'm just kind of trying to think of a one album wonder, not a one hit wonder, but a one album wonder, Yeah, Steven says that he can't shake the urge to go back to an MP1 Marshall Power Amp and a Lexicon processor. You should do it, dude. Bring it back. Bring it back. It's time. If you feel the need, just do it. Billy Squier. But Billy Squier had more records too, right? He did, with hits. Skid Row. I think I'm talking about absolute, Quiet Riot's an interesting one, because I feel like, they sold 10 million, but I don't know if if even if you had all the original members, if they had gotten back together, if it would have worked as a, not like GNR, as a stadium thing. There was just something about Guns N' Roses where it was like, maybe it was the acrimony and the kind of like there's a lot of power in that Slash Axl sort of relationship. Those two guys, they were kind of the Steven Tyler. I guess there's certain, even though like Izzy did a lot of the writing and stuff, it's like there's certain duos in history, guitar player, singer. We got Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. We got David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen, and we got Axl and Slash, and maybe that's what it is. And you get those two guys back together that had some legendary stuff early, some fire out of the box kind of energy, and people want to see that. I guess that's part of what it is. Lennon and McCartney, like the duos and they're much stronger together than they are apart, as the power of Keith and Mick, and so there's that. Maybe the Sex Pistols is a different thing entirely. It's almost like Sex Pistols is almost like just a brand in and of itself of counterculture. I don't know what do you even call it? It was just so outrageous at the time that it's like a thing that, the fact that I don't think Sid played on the record, right? But they were it's just the story. It's almost like showbiz, anyway, what else we got here? Milli Vanilli. Milli Vanilli. Well, you talk like a YouTube punk. Jim, it's time to not even put you in timeout, but to block you, because you're no fun. You like to bag on people, and you called me a YouTube punk. So you hurt my feelings. No, I couldn't give a shit. But Jim, you're just being kind of a troll. So I'll see you later. Goodbye. See ya. Bye, Jim. Damn it, Jim. James Bobby just got nuked. Make another account and come back and bitch at me under another name, Jim. You know you want to do it. Night Ranger, 3 hit albums in a row. Yeah, Night Ranger had a bunch of hits. That's for sure. More than one. No, not the Police. The Police was like they're a little more like a Soundgarden, where they like went out on top with their, although Soundgarden released, I would say, after Super Unknown, Down on the Upside is just a terrific. That's kind of like Sgt. Pepper's and the White Album or something. Although it was more of a band effort than the White Album, but you know what I mean, where it was like great, great, great. Oh my God, they've made their Sgt. Pepper's, and then another great record after that that's totally great, and then they just kind of went away. The Police with Synchronicity, they just peaked and went on top. Kind of. I feel like it was a long, slow build though. It's 4 records, really, right? Isn't it? The first album, you've got Zenyatta Mondatta, right? What are the 4 Police albums? I forget things. Yeah, my memory sucks, you guys. So give them their credit here. Really, it's from like 77 or 78 through 83, right? A lot of work and a lot of like kind of incessant, touring and. Okay, Regatta de Blanc, right. Zenyatta Mondatta was the next record, 80, 81. Ghost in the Machine, and then Synchronicities. 4 great records. They're all great, and there's no filler on any of them. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Hard to be a 1-album wonder. Yeah, I mean, that's true. There's not many of them out there. Okay. Well, let's talk guitar stuff for a little while. This has been an interesting music discussion, but anybody want to know anything about tubes, speakers, anything like that? What did I put out this week for videos? Did you guys see the Great Eastern Effects video for the Drive? It was an overdrive that you can switch the low end. It's got like a low cut on it. It's a really nice pedal. I really enjoyed doing that. I also did this, the Cornerstone Aquarium. This is a Vibe that's got 2 switchable speeds on it. Some fun videos. Are all sidemen on tour with famous recording artists now arrangers, like when doing sessions? Are all sidemen on tour with famous recording artists now arrangers, like when doing sessions? I don't know. I sort of don't understand the question, to be honest, but like when doing sessions. So generally, as a sideman playing with people, there's usually somebody in the band that's designated as an MD. I don't know if that's what you mean. Sometimes the MD these days, which is kind of the person that oversees the music for the band, can be not even a member of the band. It could be somebody that's just there to kind of get the tour started, get the band whipped into shape during rehearsals, and then bye, send you out on the road. That happens a lot these days. But sometimes there is an MD that's in the band, which is usually pretty helpful, because then when you're out on the road, artists always want to make changes and add songs and work things up at sound check and stuff. And then somebody can be the point person for all that and help with all that stuff. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean. But yeah. Did you check the Steven Wilson video? No, I didn't. But post a link and I'll check it after the show. I didn't. We were talking about Steven Wilson last week, and he made a comment about, I guess, in an interview about how there didn't need to be any new music. And I got kind of like, well, what the hell does that mean? And people were like, you should watch the video. I think you're taking it out of context, which was fair. But no, I didn't watch it. I should have. Sorry. At least I'm honest, right? Could have been like, oh yeah, I watched it, but I'm not gonna do that. How many interviews do you think Sting has done? He seemed pretty fun during the Rick Beato interview. I think his interview with Rick was really good. I think he probably really enjoyed it, because Rick is such a musical guy and took the interview really seriously and asked him a lot of great questions. And it became a great discussion about songwriting and music. And I think it was probably a lot more, Sting can, and I think Andy Summers too. God, I've read some interviews with Andy where he's genuinely cantankerous, like just kind of pissed about, the somebody asked him what string gauge he uses, I think, in a guitar player interview. He's like, you got to be kidding me. Are you really going to ask me questions like this? This is ridiculous. Like, that was his answer. And they printed it in the magazine. The recent, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago in Guitar Player. He was really pissed off. But anyway, he would hate this show. Big Andy Summers fan. I've great respect for him, but he does seem like maybe you don't want to catch him on the wrong day. But yeah, I'm sure Rick enjoyed the interview as well as Sting enjoyed the interview, with Rick, because it was really good with him and Dominic. Dominic seems like a great guy. We follow each other on Twitter and back and forth sometimes and stuff. He seems like a really cool, he's got a great appreciation for Eddie Van Halen, I think, and which I found interesting. I never would have guessed that, but there you go. So, anyways, Alanis, that's a good example of an artist that had although she's a solo artist, but yeah, massive record, 20 plus million sold, and then had more records after that, but it was really that first one that makes her she can still go out and play, do big places and stuff. And it, she did a Jagged Little Pill like 20th anniversary record, or kind of tour or something. I think it was really that one record that she was not a one album wonder, because that sells, a lot of these people, they went on and they had more records and stuff, but really that one record cemented them, as being like kind of like a career status. Alanis, that's a good example, although it's a solo artist, not a band, for sure. Ben says, sorry, folks, should have kept a better eye. Hey, it's okay, man. It's all right. I can take it. I find the goofballs to be fun sometimes, to be honest. It's like, it's a little annoying, but it's just so, the whole thing with trolls these days, especially in 2022, after all, it's getting like so sad these days when people are just trying to get it's like, I just look at it and feel sorry for them. Like when some stupid, they're obviously just trying to get attention, and it's so lame. It's like, dude, go write a song or practice or something. I just feel sorry for them. It does not piss me off, and it doesn't get under my skin. And it's just like, come on. Like, how did your mom hurt you when you were young? Like, can we work through it? Get some therapy. What do you want to talk about? Let's not talk about music. Let's talk about other stuff. They need a hug. They need a hug. They need a hug. They need a lot more than a hug. And there's a lot of mental illness, and it comes out in weird ways on the internet these days and stuff. It's just sad. It's like, if you can get past in all seriousness, if you can get past the lameness of it and how they're trying to hurt, and go to the other side and go, God, this person's in a lot more pain than they're trying to put on someone else and get under their skin. But where's that come from? It's just so sad, it's like sad. It's sad. It's weird. But Nick's got some chorizo left over. Any suggestions for dishes? Oh, dude, I would just do some scrambled eggs and have at it. A little bit of sun-dried tomatoes. How's that? As far as nuts go, you're nuts. Sorry. Bone, tusk, or graphite on Strats. What's your preference? Oh, my guitar, I believe I think it's tusk. I hope I'm right about that. That's what they're, but I'm cool with tusk. Interestingly, on a Les Paul, I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist. Like, I'll probably go bone, even though the original were nylon. But yeah, on a super Strat kind of guitar with a trem that I really want to keep in tune, that kind of thing, I would go with something slippery, graphite or tusk, I think. What do you guys think about that? The Pete Thorn facts thread on the gear page was a hoot. Yeah, that was an interesting one with a few in there kind of taking shots and stuff like that. That's kind of goofy. The gear page is funny because it's like, I've been a member of the gear page for over 20 years now. And, you'll get guys coming in that will talk smack about you or whatever, but they've been there like 9 months or something. And we're all like, there's a lot of longtime members that are on there that have posted since, we've all grown old together. And so it's kind of funny. It's like somebody walking into your bar or whatever, where, and they've been there, blah, and they're talking like smack about you or whatever. And all the locals are, who the hell's this guy? It's a little like surfers, like are a little territorial, I think, like where, you're in the lineup or whatever, and this is your spot, and you've worked your way up to, there's a little bit of localism and territorial, certainly with surfing. Like full on, well, you'll actually get your ass kicked if you right out there in the water. If you're like dropping in on locals, right? And people that have, there's a hierarchy and a respect, and you have to earn your way. Certainly California, I think probably many parts of the world, that is the case, and it's a difficult thing. And so anyway, with the gear page, it's kind of funny when people drop in there and then they're like, it's like, who the hell's this guy? And it generally doesn't go well for them, and people will, that's just part of being around a community for a long time. But the whole thing about the gear page is funny because it does kind of blur the line between, I guess there's a lot of things that blur the line between like where it used to be, if you were a well-known person in your music field or whatever, you didn't have the connection with people. Well, now, like I do stuff like this, or, somebody like Rick does live streams. You might know us from YouTube or whatever, or, or people in bands will do, you know what I mean? There's just more connection with people now, but there's like, and everybody's just regular people. And like, if you're a well-adjusted guy, like a normal person, like Rick's a really nice guy. What's my point? It's just like, hey, like, you don't got to come in and talk, like, you wouldn't do that about anybody else here. So why you got to come in and talk smack about it? You know what I mean? In a community that you're a part of and you're going to see, like I'm going to see, or Rick's going to see, or whatever, like somebody coming in here in my chat and talking shit. It's kind of funny in a way. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, hey man, you're in my house. This is my little digital house. You just showed up at my party, and like, I guess that's the thing. Like, don't come into people's, like digital parties or little digital houses and think that you're going to like start throwing your weight around and it's going to go well for you. Like, it's not, you're just going to be seen as a tool, and then it's going to end badly for you. And I don't know. It's weird. Just be cool, man. Just be cool if you're at the party. Nick says you had to unsubscribe from Rick. Oops, sorry. Because he started annoying you and not entirely sure what. Well, that's okay. I mean, not everybody feels the same. I really like Rick. I mean, he's a friend of mine. I feel like he's a really nice guy. He really cares. He really takes his time with the videos, and he takes them seriously, and he puts a lot of time and effort into them. And I think he's a good educator, I mean, he's somewhat polarizing these days for some reason, but I got nothing but respect for him. But also, I mean, if you don't dig, that's it. Not everybody's going to like everybody, right? Certainly not everybody likes me, like that guy earlier in the chat. So it's all good. Cheers for Tim and Pete back on the air again. That was really fun doing that little live stream. It was quick and rushed, man. It was a little chaotic, but it was really fun to do it. I'd like to do something else with him again soon. I love Tim. He's the best. Hanging out with him for a few days at Sweetwater was fun. I got to know him a little better than I did before, and even that I've known him for years. But when he's because he's such a positive guy and he's really sweet, but there is a really funny undercurrent to his personality that there can be a little bit of a darkness or a cutting humor to him that's really funny that he maybe doesn't always show off. And I was like, oh, I like that guy. That guy's interesting. That guy I haven't really seen before. So it was really fun hanging out with him. Just some good talks and stuff. Anyways, yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Maybe do more Tim and Pete from Norms. That might be fun. Do something there. At least one from there. Javier says the good old Huge Racks days. Yeah, man. I missed that forum. Actually, it was fun too. It was good. It was a lot of knowledgeable dudes on there, with a lot of builders hanging out and stuff, and it was good. I used to do the Huge Racks as well as the George from Metropolis, the Metro Forum. That was a good one too. I don't even think it's there anymore, is it? It's funny because I don't really look at them anymore. Whatever's out there anymore. I don't know. I don't understand how people can be negative in a stream. It's really minor though, Joe. It's like there's always like, because it says right now there's 450 people online, and you'll get one guy or two guys. I'm really lucky. I feel like that it's really a pretty nice vibe with all you guys, and I think if you what I think it is for anybody out there that does the internet, this is what I've kind of learned. If you aren't always just self-promoting, but if you're giving back by doing something, whether it's teaching guitar or offering up some sort of, like if you're willing, like I get a lot out of being here too from you guys. You guys teach me. I've learned things this week about, Vitology was the album that, Better Man was on, not 10. I thought it was on the second record, but no, it's on the third record. I just forgot, and so every week there's something where you guys school me and teach me, and if we have that exchange, and then I'm helping too with like, hey, what do you think, what speakers should I put in, whatever, the vibe always just stays good, even with the craziness of the internet, and even without that much moderation going on. It tends to work itself out, and that's one thing with social media I've noticed. As long as you're sort of, if it's a good exchange and you're giving back and not just self-promoting or coming off as wanting to sell something or whatever, like you can do that too. That's okay. That's just earning a living. But if it's all you do, it tends to drift into more negativity and stuff like that, I find. So that's one thing I've learned that's important for anybody that does YouTube. It sort of takes care of itself as long as there's a good exchange and people are getting something out of it beyond just, you want them to buy something or something. So that never seems to go well long term if that's all you do. What do you guys think of reaction videos? That's a good question from Ape Shoot. I don't really like them. Sometimes I find them entertaining, but I find them to be kind of a cheap sort of way to make a YouTube video. I don't get a lot out of it. It's not something that I've ever done. It's a little like unboxing videos. I think those are goofy too. But that's why you don't see me do them, although I'll do them sometimes and make kind of fun of the whole thing. I think it's sort of, the first time I heard about an unboxing video, I was like, that's a weird sort of strange indictment of society. Like if we've got people watching other people buy things and then getting a thrill out of watching somebody else take something out of a box, it's a little strange. I don't know. It's a little strange, but I'm just not really into that sort of video. That's not really what I do, but I'd much rather make videos about Marshalls or tubes or something. Gotta run, says D Marty. See you, man. Thanks for being here. Ben says he does unboxing videos. Sorry, Ben. I love you. I'm not commenting on your. I'll do it sometimes in videos, but I think they're kind of like, I don't like them personally. For me, that's just me. No criticism of you. Other people might really enjoy it. I mean, obviously they do because they're everywhere. It's just not my thing. But I'm not. I don't want to be critical. Sorry, Ben. I love you. I'd rather do an unboxing video of like cider or something. That'd be interesting, where we sample. That might be good. How much or light? How much? What was the question there? I didn't understand. How much or light do you rely on modeled versus real? Are you just saying how much do I rely on modeled versus real amps in general? I mean, these days it's kind of like I'm still real amps. I would say at least 60-40 to modeling, but I do modeling for some stuff. Be it a plug-in for demos for certain things that I do, or be it live. Sometimes the Quad Cortex I'm using these days, and it depends on the work situation. I'm a tube amp guy pretty much, but I'm also all about getting the work done. So, like depends on if I got to fly somewhere and I need to have a compact rig. I go modeling sometimes. So, have you ever played Mean Street live? Yeah, I did Mean Street with Mitch at that show in Florida we did. It was so much fun. The tapping part's hard for me in the beginning. The rest of the song I love. I love the solos, unbelievable, and that sounds so much fun to play. And the groove settling. It's so much fun to play with the drummer. The kick drum pattern is the coolest thing in the world in that song. It's really fun. Let's see. Do you remember where and when your first time at Guitar Center? Yeah, sure. I don't remember if I think it was on the same trip, maybe. But I bought a guitar, or rather, my father bought me a guitar when I was probably 14 at Guitar Center Sherman Oaks. And I wish I had that guitar still, man. It was a Kramer Pacer that was kind of in that weird transitional period between the old Kramer headstock that looked kind of like the Sir one, and the hockey stick. And I think mine had the hockey stick, is my memory of it. I didn't have the guitar that long, and I hate that I sold that guitar. But and it was a Pacer body with a single humbucker, volume and a tone, and a three-way switch, and you could do series parallel or coil tap. I remember it had the original Schaller humbucker in it. It was a weird guitar, and it was Blueburst, and like it was a legit, really cool, like early '80s Kramer Pacer that was just a really interesting guitar. So that came from Guitar Center Sherman Oaks around 83 or 84. And I wish I still had that guitar. I was on a family vacation in California, and my dad, I really wanted it, and he got it for me. And it was just like I felt so stoked. I was so happy that day, and I was so thankful to my pop. And then, I bought and sold a lot of guitars over that period of like 83, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I had a Hamer Chaparral, and I had a bunch of different guitars, and that was one of the ones that went in that time, and I never should have sold it. It's just one of those things. I just remember it as being actually maybe my first Floyd Rose guitar. I think it was. It had a chrome Floyd on it. And it was just a really cool 80s guitar that I just, from a nostalgia perspective, I wish I had. But that was GC Sherman Oaks. And then I remember maybe on the same trip going into Guitar Center Hollywood, and it was like I'd never been in a store like that where just guitars stacked 5 high up the wall, on the racks or whatever, and so many guitars. I was just like, oh my God, this place is heaven. I'm in the middle of Hollywood, and I'm at Guitar Center in the 80s. It was like it was really amazing. I never wanted to leave. My dad couldn't get out of there fast enough. I just remember they like to stay in more like the when we came to California, like to be at the beach and be at, in Laguna or something, or La Jolla or one of those kinds of places, and they really enjoyed that. Being in LA in the middle of Hollywood was not fun for my dad. So he did it for me, just to go in there but it was an afternoon or whatever that we had doing that. And that was it. But, any advice on improving swing and playing? That's a good question. I mean, you kind of just have to, you just kind of have to play, in that maybe put on find some jam tracks and stuff that you can improvise to, and really concentrate on playing simply and just getting into that feel, and you kind of internalize it. No substitute for just kind of doing it, I know that's not much of an answer, but okay, so that was I answered that one. First time at Guitar Center. Let's see, a few samples in, I imagine the cider video would be pretty entertaining. Yeah, I think so. Ben samples sodas. It is legitimately entertaining. I would be down with that. I want to do a boxing video instead. Putting gear back that you don't like. That's actually really funny. That's a great idea. All right, we're going to box up some stuff now and sell it. I like that idea. A boxing video. Pretty good. We could do it on Boxing Day. What else we got here? I unboxed a custom Kramer body on Friday. That's cool. Okay, I'll watch your unboxing videos, Ben. That's it. Living vicariously through someone else's disposable income. Okay. The Ken Tamplin observation videos are good. I haven't seen one, but I can imagine Ken's a singing instructor, for those that haven't seen him. And I can imagine his videos are probably pretty educational, like where he maybe, there's probably a, where he's watching something and then applying it to some sort of singing education, I would think, Am I right about that? What time is it? Holy, is it really 2 already? Oh, I guess I started a little late today, but yeah, I've still gone 2 hours. Wow, this one went fast. I haven't looked at the clock once. So cool. Okay, so I'm going to go till 2:20 on this one. It's 2:13 now. I didn't even think about what time it was. It felt like about an hour and a half to me, but we're already 2:15 in. This is a fun one. You guys are the best, man. Thanks for keeping me completely in the zone for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Do you keep the pedals you demo? It depends, is the answer. It depends on the video and my particular arrangement. What in-ear monitor or headphone do you use for guitar recording? I don't really actually use headphones much to record, but my headphones of choice for a number of years have been these I always forget the name of them, but there it is right there if I can see it. Source Audio, I believe, or no, not Source Audio. SACB1 is what these are called. Search for CB1 headphones and you'll find them. They're inexpensive. They're under $100. I don't know how much. I think they used to be around 60 or 70, but inflation, I don't know, maybe they gone up a little bit. But the company that made these, I have full disclosure, they sent me a pair to check out and said, just talk about them if you like them. We bet you'll love them. And I said, okay. And they sent them to me and I was like, holy shit, these sound really good. They actually are really great. I mean, legit, I've been using these for years. They're sitting here plugged in, no BS. And they sound as good as anything that I've tried that's, under four. I've got some nice other headphones. I've got some open back Sennheisers that I really like. I've got some Audio Technicas that are quite cool. They're a little more bassy than I like, but they're good. They sound really solid and rocking, like really good, and they seal quite tight. So those would be good for tracking loud. They're kind of a studio standard, the AT50 or whatever they're called, ATH50, something like that. And then I've got some Dynaudios that are sort of expensive, DT 1770s or something. Those are really nice for between those and the Sennheisers, the high end. They're probably like a little nicer than these, but these are under $100 and they sound great for tracking. So, what single coil would you run in a HS with Thornbucker 2? A stacked single? Yeah, you could do a stacked single for, silent. If you were going to do stacked single, I would probably go just, Duncan Classic Stack or something, or maybe one of the DiMarzio, the Area series, look for one of those. If you want, I've been using Sir single coils exclusively for many years for sort of that thing. And I love the V63. So that's what I have in this. This guitar comes with an SSC though. So it's got when you're in single coils, it's doing the hum canceling because it's got the silent coil in there. So I kind of get the silent thing no matter what. Yeah, man. Oh, wow. There's some crazy super chats coming in there. Thank you guys for you guys are too kind. I really appreciate it. This show flew by, says Peter. Thank you for being here, man. The best way to kick off a Sunday. Videos this week. Enjoy the week. Thanks, man. Yeah, so the videos this week will be my interview with James Santiago, designer of the UA pedals, and great guitar player and great guy. Total guitar nut, gear nut. At Sweetwater Gear Fest. So I filmed it a couple weeks ago and I finally got it together. Corey Congiglio's in it as well. He's a great guitar player from Nashville. He's playing a little bit in it. I'm playing a little bit in it. And we're talking about AC30s and the UA Ruby pedal, which is the AC30 model or pedal. But it really became a discussion about AC30s and in general. It was really a good discussion. So quite enjoyed it. That's the one video I've got done coming out this week. We'll see what else I can get done. I think I'm going to do, I've got a boost here that Crazy Tube Circuit sent me a long time ago, and I owe them a video for it. I haven't even been able to plug it in yet, but I know it's going to be awesome because everything they do is awesome. I'll show it to you. It is I can get a video done for this guy too. I will do it this week. This pedal's been out for a while, but it's wild. The Attenuators, is that how you say it? Attenuators. This is the way huge kind of micro synth, fuzz micro synth, really bodacious, crazy sounding pedal with all the sliders from the mind of Mr. George Trips. So I've got some stuff I shot out at Sweetwater of me playing through it, as well as the guys there in the them playing through it, and I'll show that in addition to maybe a little clip that I do in here or something. So if I can get that done, I will. But this is the Crazy Tube Circuits pedal. Look at that thing, the superconductor, and it's got a variety of different boosts in it. So you've got one here labeled RM. We know what that is, Rangemaster, I do believe. And then maybe an EP style boost as well in there, and then a couple of others. And yeah, so this would be a multi boost kind of situation, and I'm looking forward to plugging that in because all their pedals sound great. Lots of tone. Could you please address my earlier super chats, dude? I'm sorry, Richard, if I missed. Let me look for them really quick. And I thought I got to them all, but maybe I didn't. And if I didn't, please ask the question right now, one more time, just in a regular chat. And after I do this one, I'll shoot to the bottom and answer it for you. Sorry, Richard. Armando says, I went to GIT in '84 when we were above the Wax Museum, right? The original building. And we met at the coffee shop downstairs. Proud of you. You're an amazing human being. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. Always have... Ben, thanks, man. What's the rule when stacking overdrives? I just got the Van Weedlin. Oh, that's an expensive pedal. I know the one you mean. And the Dude, both nice pedals. There's no rules. There is no rules. I can't really... I always say put the Ampere pedal second, but your mileage may vary, you know? So I'd probably put the Van Weedlin pedal second, and then I'd put the Dude in front. But they're both kind of ampy because the Dude is a little dumbly, isn't it? I think. So they both... You might have a little bit of crossover with those two pedals and sort of what they do, in thinking about the Dude and the Van Weedlin. What do you guys think out of those two? If I've got a tube screamer and then I've got a Sir Riot, I'm going to put the screamer first because I'm going to put the Riot as an ampy pedal down chain, and then I'm going to put the boosty tube screamery overdrivey thing in front of it generally to get, you know, I think one is the amp and one is the you know, that's my general thing. But sometimes, you know, your mileage may vary. Okay, so Richard, your super chats. I'm gonna look for you here, my friend. Oh, Sasha Boo Boo was there. Oh, that was the question about Guitar Center. Hi, Sasha Boo Boo. I haven't seen you for a while. Thank you for that. Okay, Richard. There's Randy Price's. Richard, maybe they didn't go through because I'm pretty thoroughly running through the chat here and kind of checking them out. And I don't see... I've gone back about at least an hour and a half here of chats. There's Carlos. Derek Hunt. I might have missed this. Jeff Buckley, he said. Ooh, yeah, dude, you're right. I mean, that's kind of a... This is getting back to the music discussion about, like, one album wonders. And Jeff Buckley definitely would qualify, you know, I think as a great... He didn't sell like Alanis, you know. She was more of a, like, the superstar. But that Jeff Buckley album he's just on a musical. I mean, he's a legend for sure. That's pretty good, you know. Sorry, I missed that earlier, Derek, if you're still here. If not, will one of Derek's friends tell him that I really appreciated that because I wouldn't have thought of that. Richard, there you are. Is this it? So many echoes this year. Any favorites? My favorite delay that's come out so far is the Halo from Keeley. Love of that thing. It actually influenced the way that I'm doing my delays on this Fight for Fighting tour coming up with the Andy Timmons style, the Halo, you know, certain... I'm not using the Halo on the board. I'm kind of simulating it within the Quad Cortex, but the sound of it and the way it really, I was like, I love playing through this, just the kind of the Andy thing. So it's really Andy, I guess, influencing, but the Halo does a beautiful thing. It has a really great, expensive sound to it, I would say, you know, where it really sounds like a I don't know, like a rack, you know, like two rack delays together. It's just really nice. Any other ones there, Richard? Mark was in there with a super chat. I hope I hit that one. Sorry, you guys, if I missed any. I hate missing super chats. It's not something that I try and stay on top of it, but I'm back about 2 hours in the chat at least here. I was going to look for any others with Richard. There's another one. Did I miss you twice? Richard, I missed you twice. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I don't know how I did that. I should have seen these, but anyway, apologies. Did you ever shop small independent pedal shops online? Found so many gems shopping around. Not really. To be honest, my YouTube whatever career or whatever you want to call this thing that I do here, arc, has kind of coincided with the boutique pedal thing, and so the like, Crazy Tube Circuits from Greece, these guys I've been working for a long time, but they contacted me originally to make videos for them back in the day. So I get a lot of folks that make pedals from. It's one of the fun things from doing this. From it could be somebody in Greece like Crazy Tube Circuits, or somebody in Italy, somebody contacting you that makes a pedal and they want to get the word out. They maybe only sell it direct, and that's one of the advantages to this wacky thing that I found myself doing, this niche kind of a little bit of a career doing pedal stuff, is that I've gotten to try a lot of stuff from all over the world. And so I don't seek it out a hell of a lot, to be honest, because it's just part of the side benefit of the job. I get a lot of people sending me things like this that I then get to try. And I'm thankful for that, because if you would have told me when I was 13 or 14 that would be what I would be doing, I'd be like, that sounds pretty fun. So it's a thing, but I haven't. Yeah, I mean, the last time I bought a pedal, man, I mean, from an online store, it's been a minute, because I just get it's what I do. It's my job. So it's a wacky job, but it's a job. I've got some other interesting stuff here I could show you guys if you want to see. Just real quick before I go. Let me put my guitar down gently here, because I'm putting it on the floor. Here's some stuff that I got coming up that I can show you. Speaking of pedals, I got to try and get a lot of this done before I go away on tour, and hopefully I can get it all done. I think I showed you the little tube amps that I've got here last week. Here's one here. So the Dark Gene, this is a little like tube amp that's a half a watt. That sounds very, very good. These are fun. So like a little full-on, 12X7 or 12AT7 style tube output section. You plug this into a cabinet. There's two I have here. One's a little more modded, I don't know, maybe Mesa or something, and the other one's a little more Marshall JMP. I like the Marshall one a lot, but they both sound good. Valbrook Barbecue. This is a dual channel boost with EQ. And it's nice because you can really fine tune the tone of the boost using the EQ, and you can get two different levels. They also make a one channel version. Strymon, who I haven't done anything with in a long time. This is their mod pedal. They wanted me to make a video of this. They just feel like it's a little underappreciated. This has phaser in it, as well as I believe some chorus. And this is one of their new series pedals that's got USB. And so you can do presets in it, I think, and stuff with these. So they've updated all their pedals. For those that don't know, the small format Strymons, you can have store presets and do all kinds of really interesting stuff, like the updated El Cap, and so kind of neat. So I wanted to get a video done for this soon, within the next week or week and a half. And then there's this guy. Look at that. That's an amp in a pedal. This is a Dumble style. So obviously with a Mercury transformer and the whole 9 yards, right? So that'll be interesting to check out. The only thing I've plugged in out of all of those and tried was the Dark Gene amp. I plugged this guy in as well, and it's real cool especially for like boosting a Marshall. Sounds really good. So I got to get a bunch of those done over the next little while. Super chat from Travis. Fantastic show. Thank you, man. Thank you. Lots of laugh out loud moments. Thanks, man. I'm glad you find me humorous. I hope I'm not, just don't call me boring, please. And on that note, I should probably go, because it's probably going to get boring. I've been here for 2:27, almost 2.5 hours. I should probably split. A couple more questions, because I can't stop. From Karen, do you ever use a preamp on guitar into a power amp? Sure. I used to use the Randall preamp, 4-channel, the Attenuator I had in my rig for a while. Mesa Boogie Studio preamp. I had a whole rig with a 295 at one point. Never did a Soldano, but that was a good sounding one that I probably should have done at some point. Never did. But yeah, I've had rigs, preamp, power amp rigs over the years, and used them pretty extensively, actually. The whole tour I did with 40-foot Echo was the Randall 4-channel, or maybe it was an Attenuator chassis, but with some Randall modules, some Attenuator modules. into a RT250 power amp. Yeah. Are you any relation to Paul Thorn? Not that I know of. What's your favorite Univibe? Favorite? I'm not a vibe like super aficionado, but I got a pedal pond one recently that was really great. I thought sounds really good. It's quite large though in a small format. I really like what Drybell does, and I like Drybell everything. They're a little like Crazy Tube Circuits. They just make really good sounding pedals. So, but the Drybell, I believe it's called the Vibe Machine, really good. And I know Steve Stevens likes it too. I think, and he's a real vibe nut. Like he's real picky about vibes. With all that said, I'm pretty cool with the Vibe and the Mobius. I actually think it sounds really good. I know it's not the exact, but man, does it ever do a nice vibey thing. That's right. I went there. Yeah. So there you have it. Got to do the nice drive. Yes. Yeah, I know. Hit the like or the world supply of germanium will disappear. That's true. Everybody hit the like, hit the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It helps. Yeah. On that note, the last question of the day: who has a shinier head, Joe Rogan or Billy Joel? I'm going to leave you guys to decide that. Leave you guys to talk amongst yourselves about that one. And with that, I think we've got to wrap it up. TC makes a nice vibe. They do the viscous vibe. It kind of looks like it says vicious vibe on the, but it's actually called the viscous vibe. I think I did a little bit on that with Tor. There's probably a video of me playing it, I think, at TC. Tor from TC. Great guy. Miss that guy. He's actually at UA now in Europe. And he's cool. I hope I get to hang with him one day again in Aarhus, Denmark. All right, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday. I will be back from my first gig with Five for Fighting, back for a few days, and then headed out a couple days after that to start the tour. So anybody that wants to come see a show, if you're in the Midwest or on the East Coast, the Upper East Coast, down all the way down to Georgia, I think we play. So that'll be soon, starting in a week and a half, a run on the road with Five for Fighting, and enjoying myself out there with John Hurley on bass and Randy Cook on drums and Mr. John Andrazik. Come see us on tour. All right. See you next week. Take care, everybody. Thank you for your super chats. Thanks always for being awesome. Thank you, Ben Coombs, for being here as well. And we will see you later.